What is going on, everybody? We are here on a brand new day. It is not a Sunday/Monday stream today. We are coming at you with a bonus episode where we're all drinking. Don't worry, we still know how to operate the stream at this point. So, I mean, you know, it could go downhill very quickly. How are you, Jacob?
It's been a long week, and I'm very glad that it's over.
It's been a very long week. But we're about to let loose and have some fun.
Yes.
We have our lovely panel here with us today, as always. We're all doing some drinking. It's going to be a fun time. I make no guarantees as to what is or is not going to happen. But, you know, that's all part of the fun.
Yeah, this one, we have 2 episodes left until we have the final bracket and when we're all together in LA with the final bracket. So
it feels like it's just flown by.
Yeah. This show that was meant to go for 10 weeks has ballooned to 20. And I can't believe that we're actually nearly the end of it. I can't believe we actually finished a show.
I know. It's an accomplishment, I will say.
Yes.
Hello everyone. How are we today? How was everybody's week?
What?
Well, we watched Home Sweet Home Alone, so that was a low light. But
I watched that for 30 seconds and just went, I got better things to do. Like I'm too busy. I have other things I need to do.
What is this compulsion to watch Home Sweet Home Alone?
We heard that it was not good, and we're like, it couldn't be that bad, and it was worse.
I love that movie, but even this, I'm considering it's either going to be a movie that I watch annually and I very nearly drink myself to death watching, or it's a movie that I never watch again and I proclaim it to be one of the absolute worst movies ever made.
I love everything else, but I might cancel Disney Plus because they made that. I'm considering it.
And I do think that film is going to be, if it's not already, Schmodown eligible. So
I'm pretty sure next year it is.
Hooray!
You were like, hey, do you want to watch it? And I was like, I'm absolutely not watching that. He goes into the bedroom, turns it on. I get a text literally 30 seconds later that goes, I'm 30 seconds into this. I don't know if I can do it. And then a minute later goes, nope, I can't do this.
Yeah,
and I see him walk it. He just turned it.
How far did you make it? What was it?
I made it to him having, like, him literally just talking to the kid talking to the homeowner or something. I was confused. I have no idea who that was. And I just went, you know what? No, this dialogue is so bad. I have better things I have to do tonight. I'm not doing this. No.
Would you believe that the couple who owned that home, who were in dire financial straits, were the bad guys of that movie?
Financial hardship is hilarious.
He couldn't find a job. What a dummy.
Oh.
They just need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps.
Yeah, no, it was a really terrible film. He farts in her face at one point. I don't want to spoil it too much, but he literally farts.
Well, now I don't even need to watch it.
And it gets in her mouth.
Wonderful. I'm so glad I turned that off. I have better things to do with my life.
Well,
this is
especially this week.
You guys are going to end up enjoying.
Yep. This week I had better things to do. I had other things I needed to do. If it was a lesser week, I probably could have watched it. But I've just been so busy this week. So
yeah.
Robbie, I can't wait for the day you get married, and then I can watch your partner fart in your face.
Mm-hmm.
What? That's how they're going to exchange their vows. Yeah.
I'm sure.
This is already going so well.
Oh yeah, this stream's amazing. I'm so excited. Oh, the drunk shenanigans.
All right, what's our first matchup? Let's get into this.
All right,
let's do it.
Our first matchup, we have a doozy.
Great.
Do we?
Avengers: Infinity War versus Star Trek: The Undiscovered Country. Adam, I'm going to start with you.
Well, now's as good a time as any just to remind everybody that when we were discussing Spawn last week, I forgot to mention the line where the clown says, every time you hear a fart, a demon gets its wings. Is that how it goes? Yeah. Okay. Well, just Spawn made it at least one round in, so that was something. So Avengers Infinity War versus Star Trek 6. This is tough. You know, when it comes to the Star Trek movies, I've been emphatic about how the original 6 are my personal favorite just because of that crew. They're all varying degrees of fun for me. And Undiscovered Country is one of the most enjoyable. It's the swan song for that crew. They got all the way into the 90s from the 60s, which is just so cool. And it's just very much like the Voyage Home. It maintains the sense of humor, and it just has a really good energy to it. Really enjoy Christopher Plummer, David Warner coming back. That said, Avengers Infinity War, when it comes to the Marvel movies, I admittedly sometimes, like, as much as I like a lot of these movies, I get a little like tired of hearing about them compared to other movies. So like there's a certain level of fatigue I personally have with some of these movies, just speaking for myself. And Infinity War and Endgame are 2 complete exceptions to that. These are movies that when I watch them, I have the complete context of the story behind it. I do think that you need to have a certain level of investment in the franchise to care about Infinity War. So in that way, it doesn't entirely stand on its own. But at the same time, I give it a complete pass on that because it's singular in what it achieved. And the setup for it is well, the bless you. The stakes are like nothing that you've ever seen in a Marvel movie or a lot of comic book movies. And Thanos is just such a delivery on a villain that at that point we had not seen in this particular universe. And the thing that for me that really just makes Thanos remarkable is how quiet he is. And whenever I watch Infinity War, there is just something so unsettling about Josh Brolin's performance. There's such confidence in what he's doing. Which is why when, this movie initially came out, a lot of people were like, maybe Thanos has a point. And, that's fundamentally like why this movie, I think, has so much replay value is because, at the end of the day, no, we should not agree with what Thanos is doing. But the fact that he can actually spur that debate with what is happening in the story, bring all the characters together in this way, and then actually showing what the stakes are at the end of the film, and forcing us all to steep in that for a year to really bask in it, I think is just something that is unique to Infinity War. So I love Undiscovered Country. I think it is a really, really wonderful Star Trek film with a lot of heart. But Infinity War is just it was a pivotal moment for me, in my movie going experience, and I can't overstate that.
Dan.
Yeah, this is hard. I've always been a fan of Star Trek 6. It's fun. You got the murder mystery element, again, the humor. I think that Shatner actually has a little fun with his own image when he's fighting Iman, and he says, "I can't believe I kissed you," and he says, "It must have been your lifelong ambition." It's just so it's kind of tweaking on Shatner's own vanity a little bit, and oh man. Yeah, I really like Star Trek 6, but then Avengers Infinity War, it was weird because it convinced you that the thing that is the thing that happens with Infinity War is the snap. And yet the movie convinces you or kind of lulls you into this idea that that's not going to happen and then it does. And it's because that seems like such a huge thing. They're well, that happens in the comics, but you can't do that in a movie because it's just too, and then they do it and then they end it there. It's just I remember we actually saw it here because we were helping out my grandmother, and we saw it on opening Thursday night, first show. And I remember when we left, we were all getting up, and this guy who was leaving in front of us gets up and everyone stands up and he goes, "Who else is pissed?" because we have to wait a year for it. And beyond just that, the ending, I agree. Thanos is such a great villain, and then even the little moments like Tom Holland and his I don't feel so good, and that was just that was a gut punch, and there was so much of it that yes, it's a part one, but at the same time, the way that it ends with such a finality in a weird way, and also they pick it up and continue it well, which always kind of helps retroactively. As great as Star Trek 6 is, and it is really good, it is always one of my favorites to read. Like, if I want to have fun, it's that or Star Trek 4 for as far as just a funny Star Trek movie. Even the scene with Scotty and Uhura trying to speak Klingon to the vessel, and anyway, it's just got fun scenes. But I will keep fighting for Star Trek, I'm sure, in other rounds, but on this round, I'm going to have to yield to Avengers: Infinity War.
Robert.
Yeah, I am with the previous two. I also really like Undiscovered Country. There are days that it combats Wrath of Khan for my favorite original series movie. I really like that movie a lot. Like Dan was saying, it's just so much fun, and it just is. It understands what it is at this point, which is something that Motion Picture and Final Frontier maybe didn't, but it really knows what's doing with that crew and that cast and that story. I really like Undiscovered Country a lot, but Infinity War is just the culmination. It's not necessarily the final payoff, but everything that they do to loop every story in is just done so well. Everything from Cap's return and how him and Tony aren't on speaking terms, and bringing in Doctor Strange, and the fight on Titan is one of the best action sequences in the MCU. Even the opening scene that just sets the tone for that movie so perfectly. And we heard that speech, hundreds of times, if you're like me, at least in the trailer, dread it, run from it. That whole opening scene just picks up where Thor Ragnarok left off and just hits the ground running, and the movie never slows down. Infinity War is just so damn good. So I have to go for Infinity War.
Marisol.
Yeah, I'll just find. I can't wax as much as everybody else. Everybody has said it so well. I think the pros and cons and giving due respect to Undiscovered Country. For me, Infinity War is one of my personal favorite MCU films. And I think you guys have learned enough about me to learn that I'm a little tougher on that series as a whole, just because it's not as close to my heart. So it has a bigger hill to climb, a lot of those movies, because those characters it's not ingrained in me, doesn't mean as much. I don't have a foundation with them to work off with when I see the movies. But when I watched Infinity War, I was like, this is the movie that I've been waiting for. Like, this is what I love. I love stakes. I love death in my superhero movies. I love really serious consequences. I really want to feel those in my superhero movies, and those really help them. For me, those really help them land and really hit home. And I was like, this has arrived. Like, when I watched Infinity War, I was like, this is an event, and it really, really helps if, yes, you have been watching and paying attention to the rest of the series, but you also still can get a lot of it. I think even if you haven't, I think you can still feel the weight because of how excellent a villain Thanos is. And how alarmingly relatable he is, how alarmingly rational of a villain bent on interdimensional destruction, as rational as one can be. That goes such a long way. And yeah, like it's one of those. I have a black heart with these things. I like it when the heroes lose. That's very interesting to me to see in a film when the heroes lose. And that's what Infinity Wars is. That's a whole gist of Infinity War. And the stakes are there. The actors are just all have just fully come into their own at this point. They've just weathered these characters so well. They could really go that much deeper and that much engaged in their performances, and it was a hit for me on almost all fronts. Infinity War definitely for me.
Mara?
I'm gonna break from the pack on this one, only because, and it's not like, oh, I'm a Star Trek person, so I'm gonna do that. It's that Infinity War does have such big stakes that it abandons any serious discussion about like issues. And one of the things that Undiscovered Country does is it's as much fun as it is serious, because it confronts serious themes of racism. And I think that that's one of the things Star Trek always did best, was trying to be forward thinking and convince people to look at problems in society through entertainment. And I think that it's done really, really well. It is actually some of Shatner's finest acting in the original series films. And because like Infinity War, I get it. The stakes are just so enormous that like that's the focus, and the interpersonal relationships, and that everything in between, as far as real life, you're so far detached from, because it's fantasy, like it's not real. And even as much as Star Trek isn't real, the fact that they decided to, at the closing of their official original series films before the bridge film of Generations, revisit what made them revisit what made them Star Trek, and discuss Kirk's hatred of Klingons because they killed his son. And I mean, I just, all of that, I can't ignore how meaningful that sort of stuff is. So I'm going to vote for Undiscovered Country, even though it's completely and totally in vain.
Taylor.
Yeah, this one, it's not necessarily easy, but at the same time, it's one of those where, as much as I enjoy the Undiscovered Country, like I would just have to go with Infinity War, not only because of everything that everyone else has said about it positively, but also just for personal, emotional, sentimental reasons. So I'm gonna go with Infinity War.
For those of you who don't know, Infinity War was the very first movie Taylor and I watched together.
I landed in Australia and we went straight to the theater because it was premiering that night.
Yeah.
So that was like the first thing we ever did together. Yes.
I turned down a screening to see it 24 hours early so that I could see it the next day with Taylor.
That's love right there.
Yeah. All right. With that, Infinity War does make it through. All right. Next up,
I think.
Oh no, we lost
sorry?
Robbie.
He'll be back.
I think he'll be back.
Oh, okay.
Thor
I'm making a new
Ragnarok.
drink.
Oh, sorry.
Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes.
What?
Mara, I'm going to start with you.
Much credit is going to be given to the prosthetics in Planet of the Apes, which is sadly a really overlooked triumph of that movie. But even though I do think that and I love Taika, by the way, I love him very much, they kind of undercut the gravity of losing your entire home with a joke. And that was one of the only shortcomings of that movie. I really thoroughly enjoy it. I love that it feels singular. I love that it has a totally different color palette and composition and structure, even though they're effectively retconning the entire Thor character. I don't really mind. I really like the movie. I'd watch it so many times over revisiting Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes. Sorry, Timmy, it just didn't work for me.
That's fair. Marisol.
I was trying to avoid this for a while. But this is the part where I say that I'm not as high on Thor Ragnarok as a lot of people.
I think you've said that on the
Have I
show
already
before.
said
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you've come clean.
Oh, sorry. Everybody's like, yeah, you did.
Well, you did because I mean the other one was RIPD. So you were like you voted for Thor, even then you're like, this is begrudgingly voting for Thor.
It's not that begrudgingly. I've also only seen Ragnarok twice, you know, and it's definitely one of those movies that I know that it will grow on me. It's just some of my reasons are like kind of more superficial. It's just, you know, I'm like, well, Thor is, you know, I love the makeover. I think that's great. The attitude, the humor makeover, but I enjoy parts. I enjoy a lot. I enjoy many things in Thor Ragnarok, but I just think leading with so much humor is just not kind of it's just kind of betraying what the character actually is. I don't think it's a perfect fit. Of course it's great for Guardians of the Galaxy and everything, but I don't think it's the most natural fit for Thor. So stylistically, Thor Ragnarok is a little messy for me. and the jokes don't always land. And I just think I do tend to think that it's kind of forcing a style on a character that's not, that brand doesn't quite fit. But there are some funny things in Thor. There are some quite funny things in Thor Ragnarok. And I think I will pick it over Planet of the Apes. I think I will. I think I will. I think I will.
She will. She thinks she will. She thinks she will. She thinks she will.
I think I will. Oh, this is so fun listening to my rambling train of thought. Mara hit the nail on the head with props for the look, the costumes, the prosthetics, the look of the apes, and the costumes in 2001's Planet of the Apes. It is a bit dreary. We have some pretty ghastly human actors in that movie, between Estella Warren, or non-actors, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to call Estella Warren, and Mark Wahlberg. Mark, I'm a scientist. Wahlberg is not an astronaut.
He's an inventor.
I'm an inventor. Right, that's right.
I'm an inventor.
Invent things.
He invents things.
Yeah, you ain't an astronaut either. So I'm sorry, but there still are quite some things to be desired in Planet of the Apes, and for me personally, with personal taste with Thor Ragnarok. But if I had to pick one to watch, it's actually kind of close. Rewatch right now. Thor Ragnarok, because I think I have more to revisit on that film. Thor Ragnarok.
Robert.
I will also go with Thor Ragnarok. I agree with Mara. There are some things production-wise to admire in Planet of the Apes. That said, I also think it's just like a pretty rough bastardization of like the themes and the plot of the original. Like, it really just is not nearly as clever or smart or subtle as anything. Like, the original Planet of the Apes from '68 is like one of my favorite sci-fi movies of all time. I just think it's so clever, and this movie just loses all nuance and all semblance of cleverness. Whereas Ragnarok, I really, really enjoy. Talk about another opening scene that just sets the tone for the whole movie. Oh no, Thor's in a cage. It's just like an incredible delivery. Just really, that character was really in need of doing something new with, and I thought this movie did a really great job. I mean, Jeff Goldblum, I think, is hilarious. I think Korg is a wonderful character. Another day, another Doug. I think everything that's happening in the arena. I like what they do with Hulk in this movie because I think it sets up for a lot of payoff that happens in Endgame, but the setup feels natural. The action's great soundtrack. I think they use the needle drops really effectively in this movie. Ragnarok is probably top 5 MCU for me, probably. I really, really, really enjoy that movie. So Ragnarok for sure over Apes.
Dan.
It's funny. Before the specter of the Schmodown reared its head, and before the IG division, and before Planet of the Apes was added to the IG division, I remember when we did the trailer for Tim Burton's Planet of the Apes, the honest trailer. It must have been probably around 2014 when Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I finished watching it, and I said, well, that's the last time in my life I'll ever watch that movie. It just goes to show you, be careful what you wish for. Yeah, in addition to the makeup, I legitimately think that Tim Roth should have gotten like awards consideration, because like Tim Roth has got to hold the award for like best performance in a bad movie, because he is legitimately great.
When is he not?
In that, I mean, he's always great, but he's legitimately great in Planet of the Apes. But he's like literally the only thing good about that movie. It is
the makeup.
Well, the makeup, yes. It is a slog. It is tough to get through. The ending is stupid.
Understatement.
No, I don't like it. Thor Ragnarok, you've got Thor. I agree with Mara. I have some misgivings, particularly in that moment toward the end with the Asgard. We're drinking again, so I have to bring up Zaddy Goldblum. I mean, that is perhaps the birth of Zaddy Goldblum in Thor Ragnarok. That is, I mean,
is there a female equivalent?
Whatever. I don't want to know what happened on that party, on that birthday party.
I mean, they tell you exactly what it was used for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I'm gonna need the found footage from that.
But also like
you know
the
he
way that
recorded it too.
it's like sort of recontextualizes Thor and Loki, but at the end doesn't really. But just it sort of goes into their more complex relationship, and I like the fact that like it both called out and sort of subverted the repeating. Their relationship was getting very one note, where it's just like, he's my brother, I love him, but he's going to betray me. And they did that for a few different cycles. And then they actually address in that movie like that is a cycle between them. And then it actually puts them in a good place by the end of it. That, carries over to a little bit Infinity War, but then even over to the show, to Loki, and the fact that he has all this unresolved stuff. And so
Loki got a show?
Believe it or not.
Sorry.
So yeah, almost any movie would get in over Planet of the Apes for me, but Thor Ragnarok is a pretty. I'm not holding my nose and voting for Ragnarok.
Conan the Destroyer was the one that Planet of the Apes 2001 beat to make it to the second round. So yeah, Taylor.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it short and sweet. This one's easy for me. Thor Ragnarok is one of my favorite MCU films. I think even if everything else about the movie was terrible, we got Tessa Thompson Valkyrie, which is enough to keep me going for the rest of eternity. So, but I do love that movie very much. I think the humor works well for me. I like the direction that they took these characters in the film. And I could go on and on forever about how much I love this movie, but I think I'm going to get another chance to talk about it at some point. So I'll just say Valkyrie, yes. Boom.
Adam, did I go to you?
No.
Okay, Adam.
Yeah.
I knew I missed someone.
I remember seeing Planet of the Apes in theaters and being really excited. My cousin and I saw it, and I remember I was visiting for the summer, and that was like the movie we were really amped to see. We had both really loved Sleepy Hollow and wanted to see Tim Burton's take on this iconic film. And I was pretty wrapped up in the aesthetic of the film, at least in the beginning. But then when it ended with Abraham Lincoln, I wanted to implode. And I was like, and at that point, I wasn't like, like the most insightful individual in the world. I was in eighth or ninth grade, roughly. But that felt like one of the most contrived, ridiculous endings that held none of the impact of the original ending. And like I appreciate that it got the nomination for the makeup and everything, but it's a bad film. Thor Ragnarok, what I appreciate about it the most is after Dark World, I don't feel like people had really much in the way of expectation with a new Thor movie. It was kind of perfunctory at that point. People were like, all right, we got a Thor coming. All right, it'll be what it'll be. And then for it to come out, and it was not only a surprise hit that really resonated with a lot of people in terms of its humor, but and it was a great reboot for the character that embraced a lot of what people find charming about Chris Hemsworth. But what I'm happy about, and this might just be, it's incidental to some extent, but the fact that it really brought Taika Waititi out into the mainstream for everybody to not only go back and watch his pre-existing work, but we had Jojo Rabbit, following this up. And yeah, he's going to do, we got the new Thor movie. He's going to do a Star Wars movie. I don't want him to get pigeonholed into big tentpole stuff for the rest of his career, but I am excited that, a director of his talent can bring that kind of energy and that kind of goodwill into this property and really engage people in a new way. With the movie itself, I think Hela is an above average villain. I don't think they get everything perfect with her character, but Cate Blanchett is just so magnetic and iconic in the role. Really good.
She the best.
I want my biggest nitpick of the film is Fandral, Hogan, and Volstagg getting killed so quickly. That bothers me. That could have been handled better. Hogan's death is a little more impactful. Volstagg and Fandral is terrible, just terrible, and they deserve better. But the use of immigrant song is wonderful. The action is great. I want Clancy Brown doing the voice of all the characters, especially the demonic ones. Yeah, Thor Ragnarok. I find wonderful. Oh, and Jeff Goldblum made soul patches cool again.
Mm-hmm.
Important for culture at that point.
Yeah. There was one other good thing about Planet of the Apes. Danny Elfman's main title theme is a great piece of movie music.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I would agree with that.
With that, Thor Ragnarok does move on.
What a miracle.
Next up, The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe versus Star Wars, The Force Awakens. Taylor, let's start with you.
Great.
You're welcome.
Thanks. This one's interesting because I really do enjoy The Force Awakens a lot. It was such a moment that I don't think I'll ever forget, just because it was such a cultural thing that Star Wars was coming back in such a big way. We're getting another theatrical Star Wars film with new stories. And I saw this movie so many times in theaters, like so many times, because I was so excited about it. And there was so much I enjoyed about it. Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is equally sentimental to me, just because it came out when I was younger, and it's something I kind of attached myself to. I really liked the cast and the characters and the world that it presented. So they're both enjoyable to me for different reasons, and they both have their negatives. They both have their moments that I could probably do without. But because I love and hate Star Wars, and it completely owns my soul, no matter if I love or hate it, I'm going to have to vote for Force Awakens.
And Robbie.
No. This is like just as hard as Sky High Snowpiercer, honestly.
There's another one coming that's worse.
Good and wonderful. What a good night.
At least I'm pretty sure Georgie Henley wasn't part of your sexual awakening, I hope.
That's true. She was not.
Thank you. Good.
I love Star Wars more than I love Narnia. We'll sit there for a bit.
You're gonna be all right.
I'm sorry. I don't know how many people heard what Dan just said, but that was amazing.
I did not. What did you say?
I said, but Tilda Swinton was.
Yeah.
It should have been.
I mean, you're not like entirely wrong. There's something there. It was more Anna Popolo. So I love Star Wars more than I love Narnia. I'm with Taylor that Force Awakens was really a moment, and I saw that movie 10 plus times in theaters, and Force Awakens is my favorite Star Wars movie. And I definitely love that franchise more than I love the Narnia franchise. Narnia is the first movie that I remember loving so much that I had to go back and see it in theaters again. That's like a super important time when you're like realize that you love a movie so much you have to go rewatch it in theaters when you're a kid. Like I was obsessed with that movie. I saw that movie 5-6 times in theaters, and like at the age that I was at when that came out, like that's impressive to have like somebody that young going to see that movie 6-7 times. So I'm obsessed with that movie. I love the story. As I've gotten older, I've sort of like mellowed out quite a bit on the religious parables that are in the entirety of the Narnia franchise, but a lot of that comes from C.S. Lewis. Man, I love Force Awakens so much. And I'm trying not to like have the sequels have any effect of it, because like I do think that the sequels retroactively hurt Force Awakens a little bit. And I don't think that the sequels of Narnia are that affect it. Like I don't think they affect the original as much. This is hard. I am gonna say Narnia. I'm gonna say Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe. I think both of them have a lot going for them, and I am in love with both of these movies. But there is something really, really, really special about like mid 2000s fantasy and how it takes itself seriously, but also is very aware of the kind of movie that they're making. I love Michael Madsen as the wolf. I love how it's like a coming of age movie in sorts. I love Jim Broadbent fucking knocks it out of the park in Narnia. I have to go with the first Narnia. I think James McAvoy is wonderful. The characters in the world building are just second to none in that first Narnia movie.
Parker just aged me like
I can go.
years, so that
What
hurt
was
my
that?
soul a little bit. You just aged me like 10 years.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I was
Jacob, you're not even
that.
30. You're not allowed to fucking say that.
I was 7
I was
years old
gonna
when that
say.
movie came out.
Oh,
I
that's
was 7 years
you.
old.
but when he just
20
said
something.
20, you know.
No.
I've had once you watch Tick Tick Boom,
challenge.
I've had a certain song on repeat for the last 2 days. So you're
having a bit of an existential
having
crisis
a little bit of
after
a
watching
crisis
Tick
right
Tick
now.
Boom.
Adam, where are you going?
I appreciate where Robert's coming from on Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe. I actually saw. I got aside from the books, I got familiar with Lion the Witch and the Wardrobe as a stage production before the movie came out. I saw 2 separate stage productions growing up, coincidentally. So I was really familiar with the story. For me at that point, I was so deeply invested in Lord of the Rings, and I think there's room for people to enjoy both. But for me personally, it was hard for me to get swept up in the world and stakes of Narnia after being so heavily invested in the Middle Earth trilogy. And I also, at that point, was, like 17 or 18 years old. And so Narnia just didn't hit with me the way it did. Like when I saw the stage production, I was younger, and I got a little more swept up in the story. I think it's as good an adaptation of that story as we're going to see on screen. I think like to Robert's point, I think it transcends a lot of its, biblical themes that are more, blatant in the book. But when it comes to The Force Awakens, not only was it an exciting rediscovery of the property, for the public at large, and for the most hardcore of fans, but in my opinion, it turned out to be a really good movie. I don't like there are people sure who write this movie off for whatever reason, but by and large, this movie was very well received, and I think for good reason. I think you have so much. Regardless of what you think of the subsequent films, I think the way these characters are set up, the performances are so great. There's so much excitement with, the things that are teased about what has happened over this 30 plus year gap between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. And for me, what was always so exciting about seeing that movie and revisiting it is, for all intents and purposes, our first return to that world after we thought everything was fixed, and seeing what has taken place and seeing how people are still coping. I just find fascinating as a Star Wars fan. I think it's one of John Williams' best scores since the original trilogy, especially with Rey's theme song. And yeah, I just, of the newer films, I'd say this and Rogue One, and for me, Last Jedi are the 3 I watched the most on repeat. And I really, really love it. So I vote for The Force Awakens.
Mara.
I'll be brief because I have a sense that I will get to talk about it more in just a little bit. But I really love Chronicles of Narnia. I'll admit, though, that I actually really encourage people that like it. If you haven't seen the BBC version, I really love that version. Not that it has to be a comparison at all, but that version I have a little bit more nostalgia for because I saw it at a much younger age. And I think it's a good adaptation. I think it really captures the world. But man, Force Awakens is one of my favorite Star Wars. And the only thing I will say, because again, I'm going to keep it very brief. For people whose primary reason for not liking Force Awakens is that it has too many beats of A New Hope, I would love for you to visit my dissertation on why there are just as many, if not more, beats that are the same or very, very mildly different from Empire Strikes Back. So I don't find that to be a very valid argument if that's the only reason someone doesn't like it, because there's literally numerically just as many in Last Jedi. So I will cede the floor to, I'm assuming, Dan.
Dan?
Yeah, listen, it's another edition of Dana's Old. I was 22 when the first Narnia movie came out. I didn't see it till a few years ago. For me, its most enduring legacy
until I think I made you watch it.
a long time was its contribution to the lyrics for Lazy Sunday. I'm also generally a little take it or leave it on fantasy. As much as I love Lord of the Rings and a lot of other fantasy movies, there are plenty of others where I'm just kind of like, eh. And I've always felt a little bit like that as a kid, even with Narnia, just the books and other stuff. I'm like, I don't know. It's a little too, fawns. And I kind of start tuning out a little bit, to be quite honest. The Force Awakens, again, I think I'll have more time to talk about it, but The Force Awakens for me, I mean, it wasn't my first rodeo with new Star Wars movies, and I went in with my guard up a lot because it was like, well, they're bringing Harrison Ford back, and it's like, yeah, but that doesn't mean they're bringing Han Solo back, that could just be Harrison Ford. And the fact that, we got into this movie and Han Solo was back, for me at least. Like, it wasn't just Harrison Ford sleepwalking through the part. Han Solo was back and Princess Leia was back. And then I honestly think, for me, as a Star Wars fan, I think I was the most excited for the franchise, period, my entire life, post Force Awakens, because I loved the returning characters. I loved Rey. I loved Finn and Poe and their interaction. I thought that Kylo Ren was such a psychologically interesting villain, and I couldn't wait to find out more from him. And Adam Driver was so great in that role. And the idea of I love the ending of Force Awakens. That's such a beautiful way to end that movie, with like Rey and Luke in that wide shot circling around, and she's holding out the lightsaber, and Mark Hamill, the look on his face and what's going to happen. And like, for me, that was the peak for me as a Star Wars fan, because I was like so excited about what was coming next. And then, next happened. But I can't punish this movie for what happened next. I can only sort of go back into my sense memory and know how I felt about it. And I still love watching that movie. Like, I will watch that movie completely independent of the other two. I can promise you, in my life, I am going to watch The Force Awakens four times as many times as I will any other movie in that new sequel trilogy. I just love it so much, and I think I can just sit and enjoy it on my own. So, Force Awakens for me.
Marisol.
It's interesting. Totally, completely in line with what you guys are saying. It's not like, we have to strip looking at what came after for both of these franchises. We look at like the franchises in a whole, which is really easy to do with a lot of these IG movies, but it's like, we really have to just look at them right there in the time that they came out in 2005 and 2015, when they came out, and look at them as a contained piece of art. Force Awakens reinvigorated, like it did for a lot of people, reinvigorated my enthusiasm about Star Wars. It was a welcome return, that completely did feel like you were home. Like, it felt very familiar. It felt like you were home. and simultaneously felt very fresh and exciting with these new batch of characters. And like you said, Dan, like the what if, oh my God, I can't wait to see where this is all going. That is really powerful and exciting when somebody nails that in a film. That's how I felt when I watched the first Star Trek remake in 2009. I was like, wow. I was like, this captures, this feels like such like it's right in line with what it's paying homage to, like completely like venerable, respectful of that, and yet so fresh and still feels so new and exciting. And I can't wait to see what happens next. Force Awakens has that in spades. It balances that in spades, and J.J. Abrams was doing something right in this one. And Chronicles of Narnia has a fortune. It only existed because that 1-2 punch of Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings in 2001, because those two franchises were so successful. They were like, oh my God, let's get Tolkien's bosom buddy, C.S. Lewis. Like, let's get his work adapted too. I admit that Chronicles of Narnia only exists because of the success of the movies, the two franchises from a few years before, and that's okay. And it is very dignified and handsome. It's a beautifully produced movie. So much money put into it, and they made it. They stretched it. They put everything into it. And it is, I think it is as great as you can hope for a launching off point in this series. I like Prince Caspian more than I'm not going to talk. Wait, I just said I'm not going to talk about the other movies. I think that this is a great launching point. Like I said, very dignified and very older teenager fantasy. Like it's that perfect entry point. And I do think it is worth revisiting, and I do think it is a very impressive film and deserves to be given its credit. But it doesn't ignite. It still, at the end of the day, doesn't ignite as much passion, and I think was really as really shook things up as Force Awakens did, respectively, and its with its property. And I personally think I'm gonna turn on. It's been years since I've rewatched Chronicles of Narnia, though, and Tilda Swinton is. I would follow Tilda Swinton. She can
Dinklage too.
She can kidnap the shit out of me. I would be putty in her hands. Tilda Swinton is
Retweet.
Tilda Swinton is terrific. Out of the two movies, none of them have quite as tremendous a performer or a performance as Tilda Swinton as the Ice Queen. And McAvoy is adorable as Mr. Tumnus, but I am gonna go with The Force Awakens. Yeah.
All right. Force Awakens makes it through to the next round. Parker, I'm just saying this now. If this episode goes as long, if we get to the end of Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe before the end of this
I
episode,
hope you don't.
Oh man, we've had a long episode. All right, this one should be quick. This one should be a fairly quick one. Alien versus Predator versus Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan. Adam, you look puzzled.
The thing about the giant ace, I already messed that up. I was going to say the thing about the giant ice anus in Antarctica. No, AVP is not great, but it is better than AVP Requiem.
Well, no shit.
So that,
if anyone's asking, AVP beat the Spirit. So
Adam one is a champion of low bars.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Mhm.
I cannot tell you how many times. I'm sorry. I really quick, and then I'm going to continue. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard this man say, "Well, it's better than Son of the Mask." All right. I cannot tell you how many times.
What was that?
I missed that one.
So is a colonoscopy.
Yeah.
See?
I would like to have the
works.
Howard the Duck versus Son of the Mask conversation.
I rest
at some point.
case.
Yeah,
I
'cause-
would not.
but
Glass, I can't.
all right. Alien versus Predator is not unwatchable though. It's got some decent Alien on Predator action. Lance Henriksen shows up. Sanaa Lathan she didn't do anything wrong. It invokes, like memories of The Thing to a certain extent with the setting, so that's cool, but it's not great. And The Wrath of Khan is one of the best Star Trek movies in existence. When you go back and watch this film, and we'll talk about it more, I think the reason it stands up so well is, because it is essentially, a pirate movie, a naval warfare movie in space, where the stakes are set up so well. Even if you don't have the background as a hardcore fan from knowing the original series, they explain it incredibly well, very efficiently, so you're caught up immediately. But if you have seen that episode, it resonates that much more, seeing Ricardo Montalban come back. And I want to see I want to see like the in-between story about how he went from the two hairstyles. I've always wondered how he went from like that really like normal looking like long hair to the even more amazing hair he has in Wrath of Khan. It's just personal curiosity. But yeah, a lot of people hate Star Trek the Motion Picture. I do not hate it. I have a weird soft spot for that strange long movie, but Wrath of Khan undeniably delivers on what that movie set up. That movie brought all the characters back to the big. They introduced them to the big screen, but brought them back to a wide audience. And Wrath of Khan cemented that and gave us one of the most memorable adventures in the entire franchise. A lot of good laughs, a lot of huge stakes. One of the most memorable endings in the franchise as well. So yeah, Wrath of Khan is my vote.
I'm just very quickly going to mention that if you want a masterclass in how to direct in franchise filmmaking, watch Wrath of Khan. That movie is an absolute masterclass in setting up characters without giving audiences everything they need to know without exposition dialogue, and just it sets up all of the characters. You don't need to spend an hour learning who all these people are, and it doesn't assume that you've watched the other movies. It tells you everything you need to know just in that film. So yeah, Wrath of Khan, one of the greatest films ever made. Dan.
I think it's a bit insulting to Wrath of Khan to entertain this as if it were an actual discussion. I will say the one thing I remember about Alien and Predator that I thought was cool was the net. The net was pretty cool, I guess. Other than that,
Annette was a really good movie. Yeah,
Annette was a great movie this year, but the net.
Nope, that's a different. That's
my
Sandra
grandmother
Bullock.
was a lovely woman.
That wasn't very good either.
Yeah, she was great.
No, I'll have plenty to say about Wrath of Khan later on. I'm going with that, obviously, easily.
Lara?
I feel like people are going to assume I have some sort of bias for Nicholas Meyer movies, but I swear it's not true. I actually don't mind AVP. It's fine. I really wish they hadn't dispatched with 3 of the 4 Predators in such quick, grotesque fashion, because let's be honest, the Predators are total bosses and would not have gone out that quickly.
No.
But yeah, Wrath of Khan is it one of the best pun intended course corrections in franchise ever to occur, because even though motion picture is more derided now than it was then, it was still not overwhelmingly positively received overall, despite like really cool special effects that had already been done by a different movie in space. But I get why they did that. But yeah, I mean, and having been, by the way, to doing actual burials at sea, that scene at the end really gets me. So yeah. Done.
Marisol.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's clear what's going to win here. So I'll just take a little second to just say a couple words at this eulogy of AVP. And I'm so happy. I'm just so happy we got a film where this sounds. I mean, it mattered to 13-year-old me. I was just happy to see a film with a Black woman as a protagonist. And I have a gigantic lady crush on Sanaa Lathan. I always have. And I was very happy to see her here. And I think, at least I will say this for it, out of all the films, this is the most convincing they've ever done this bit where like the Predators accept, more convincing than with Adrian Brody and Predators, and damn more convincing than with Danny Glover and Predator 2. This is the most convincing film where like the Predator accepts like a human being, like, you know, like it's just like, you're cool. And I think that she really earned that in this film. And I think that's the most effective of all the times we've seen this in Predator movies. I think it was the best human to Predator relationship in AVP. Outside of that, there's not a lot of great things to say about this movie, understandably. But I do want to give it the props for that. And I think that this movie built well in the first like 30 minutes and then just became pretty quickly some trash. But I still remember it and have revisited it because of the things, those positives that I like about it. And I still think Sanaa carries the film surprisingly kind of well. You still care about what happens to her throughout the whole film, which is something you could rarely say with films made on this mediocre level, which is something you could rarely say about characters in these kind of films. That being said, now that that's out of the way, wow, Wrath of Khan is such a better film than AVP. I maybe like I don't know what that energy is with Montalban and that little like little cutout little sweater that he's wearing.
I think you know what that energy is.
I think actually maybe I do know.
He's got some Jareth vibes.
Oh yeah, but like Jareth wishes. Like Bowie wishes. And Montalban didn't need the cod piece. So I think that I saw somebody saying something about the earbugs. Yeah, like the reason I sleep at night with my hair over my ears, because I don't want things to crawl into my ears at night, and it's because of the Wrath of Khan. This movie is great. It's excellent to take. I love that you get a giant sci-fi adventure, and it's so personal and it's so intimate. And it still fits the bill of being this amazing space adventure, but it's just so fueled by so driven by character more than maybe most sci-fi films we've ever seen. Wrath of Khan's gonna go on, so I'll say more things about it later. Just wanted to say I had that little piece, that little pay AVP some kind of respect before it gets shown the door or shown the cane, whatever. Wrath of Khan, no question.
Taylor.
I don't have too much more to add. We've kind of covered all the bases, giving Sanaa Lathan her shout out, giving Ricardo Montalban's outfit the appropriate shout out. 100% had to do that. It just retroactively, when I think about that, I'm like, we got robbed with Benedict Cumberbatch. I needed to see like an outfit, and we did not get it. So that's still depressing.
We needed a low cut cardigan. Yeah.
Come like that I will not forgive Abrams for, because that's just a crime against everything. But the only other thing I will say is gotta give a shout out to the underground pyramid situation they had going on, where there's like, yeah, of course there's just this underground pyramid that, we're gonna go explore and nothing bad could possibly happen. It's gonna be fine. Everything's gonna be great. And then the pyramid just like booby traps them the entire movie. And I at least found that kind of interesting as a concept. So that's really all I can say about that.
And Robert.
Yeah, everybody said all the great things about Wrath of Khan. I'm not gonna be able to add any more there. That movie is damn great. It's a horror movie at times. It's philosophical. Ricardo Montalban just knocks it out of the park. Wrath of Khan rocks. Alien versus Predator. I am not going to vote for. But I will say that I have a soft spot in my heart, and I love it anytime that we can see xenomorphs doing their xenomorph thing. I'm a fan. Note that I said you have to see it. That's why I don't like Requiem, because you can't see the xenomorphs doing their xenomorph thing. But anytime you see them, you see the acid blood, you see them like using their tails. I don't know. I just like watching xenomorphs on screen. Sue me. So I like Alien versus Predator. I don't think it's wonderful, but I do like it. Yeah, I think there are some things to like about the movie. I like how the Queen fight is done. Marisol made a really good point about how it's a great show of accepting a human, taking xenomorph weapons based off of Predator. Like, there is some good stuff in Alien versus Predator, but Wrath of Khan is just like probably the best Star Trek movie. Like, depending on who you talk to, certainly for me the best of the original series. Even though Undiscovered Country is great, solely based on the performance of Ricardo Montalban. I think he really puts the movie on his shoulders, and the rest of the crew does a really, really great job. But I think it's by far the best villain of any Star Trek movie in this one.
All right, and with that, Star Trek Wrath of Khan makes it through. Next up, The Incredible Hulk versus Star Trek Into Darkness.
Interesting.
Yeah, Dan, this was the Mara and Dan, this was the episode you guys missed last time, but all the Star Trek movies made it through. So, Mara, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah. Okay. This will probably make no sense to anybody, but there is a good movie inside of Star Trek Into Darkness. It's one where Khan has nothing to do with the entire movie. Benedict Cumberbatch is an original villain who has whatever stupid name they want him to have, and that is pronounced properly by Admiral RoboCop and not like terribly attempted to be said sort of right. Don't know why they couldn't have just gotten him in a booth to redo that, but whatever. And I think that sadly, like, I can't get past the con-ness of it all overall when I look at like the Star Trek franchise, but comparing it to Incredible Hulk for me is not really a tough predicament, because the music in Into Darkness is beautiful and haunting, and despite anything that happens in it, I can listen to that score. It's beautiful. The Into Darkness theme particularly is delightful, a sensory experience for the ears and the body. I accept Benedict Cumberbatch doing what he could. He did the most he could with what he had. They shouldn't have cut the shower scene. If they were going to show Alice Eve in her underwear, they should have just shown us Benedict Cumberbatch with all of his chesticles and his abdominals in the shower. It's only fair. Yeah, for me, this isn't tough. I don't hate Incredible Hulk, but it's fine. I've revisited Into Darkness so many times just for fun before like I was ever in Inner Geekdom, because in my mind I just try to really divorce myself from the con of it all. Yeah, I just find I don't know that there's a great movie inside of Incredible Hulk or even a really good one. It's fine. But yeah, I enjoy revisiting Into Darkness. So yep, I'll be the only person in this camp. So continue.
People asking, Incredible Hulk beat Kingsman: The Golden Circle, and Star Trek Into Darkness beat Iron Man 2.
Wow.
So Dan just looks so defeated.
This is what happens when people miss a week and they come back and realize what's happened.
This is also the Howard the Duck bracket. So
yeah,
I'm sorry we went on a vacation. I'm sorry we took 1 week to ourselves to go on vacation with 8 other people we love. I will never do it again.
I'm sorry. Dan.
I'm going to channel Lucille Bluth here. I don't care for Star Trek Into Darkness.
I don't care for Joe.
It's kind of like what Marisol said. I felt that same excitement at the end of Star Trek 09, where they're the new crew, they've established what they are, and they're going out into space and they can do whatever they want. Whatever. No canon, no history. You don't have to tie back to certain things that already happened. The world is their oyster, and they chose to do this half-assed remake of Wrath of Khan, Orsi and Kurtzman with their freaking magic blood, which is so fucking dumb that they used it again in Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Portable transport beaming device. Why even travel through space?
The whole thing that everybody knew it was Khan, and the stupid,
it's not
dumb 2-year-long thing. Like, it's not Khan. But why Khan? You could do anything. anything in the world, anything in the universe. You have a blank page. Star Trek, the sequel had a blank page, and they're like, let's redo. And at least when we got to the end and they kill Captain Kirk, I was like, okay, now this is interesting. What if the franchise, because I'm like, they killed him. It's not like you can't put his Katra back in his body. He's dead. It's like, this is interesting. What if this was all a way for Kirk to make the ultimate sacrifice? And this franchise now has to find its way without Captain Kirk. And now you're going to do a Star Trek franchise without like the most, no, of course. They're dumb, triple, stupid, dumb, triple blood.
Can you explain that again? I didn't quite get it.
I hate Star Trek Into Darkness. I do. It's maybe my least favorite Star Trek movie because it's just so derivative, and they could have done anything in the world that they wanted to do. And instead they're like, let's go to the best Star Trek movie and try to top it. That's a great idea. Brilliant. Great move. Way to think outside the box there. Hollywood thinking at its best. And on the flip side of that, I also don't hate The Incredible Hulk. I don't think it's great, but I like it. I think that it is.
Tell me what you really think.
I think that it is evocative of the 80s show. I don't hate Edward Norton as much as some people seem to, but they do.
In real life?
What?
I'm joking.
No, well, I can't speak about real life, but I think that it's, if it weren't part of the MCU, I think people would regard it a little bit better, but it's sort of the outcast of the MCU. I don't hate it. It's definitely not one of the best MCU movies, but I have a boiling hatred for Star Trek Into Darkness, trying to earn its stripes off of the back of a franchise that they just divorced themselves from the canon of. The whole thing about Star Trek 09 was that you were getting rid of canon, and the first thing that they do is jump right back into it. Stupid idea. Dumb, dummies. Stupid. Dumb.
I'm unclear what you're trying to say.
Okay, I'm done.
Wait, what are you voting for?
I'm voting for The Incredible Hulk.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Did you think Star Trek Into Darkness was dumb? I don't get it.
It's a dumb movie made by dummies.
Taylor.
Okay, cool. Love to follow that up. As someone who was introduced to Star Trek via Star Trek 09, I didn't have a reference to the Wrath of Khan going into this film. So this was my Wrath of Khan, I guess, first experience. And I loved it. Like, it made me cry. Like, it makes me very emotional. It's a movie that works very well for me on pretty much every single beat. I'm sorry. I feel like Dan's going to throw up for me talking about this, but I'm not going to lie.
You know how much we can monetize this for if Dan Merle throws up on stream?
True.
I'm not
but I'm not gonna lie about it. Just like I'm not gonna lie about my love for The Last Jedi when most people hate it. Like I love Into Darkness. I have so much fun with it. I think the cast is great. Are there moments that don't necessarily work? Sure. But to me, this cast is my Star Trek cast that means the most to me. And even the movies that maybe aren't the best, or there are some things that don't work, they still are going to mean more to me. And a lot of what they do in this movie works. Like I said, it makes me very emotional to see this story with this crew in particular. I think it's great because it's not exactly doing what Wrath of Khan does. Now that I've gone back and watched them both and have kind of a reference for both, I think it's successful to me in bouncing off of the original Wrath of Khan story while still doing its own thing that doesn't necessarily tie directly to Wrath of Khan, because this crew hasn't experienced the same history, hasn't been through the same things, but we're kind of getting their own version of maybe what that looks like. And to me, it's successful. Is it my favorite movie of the newer series? No, it's probably my least favorite of the three, but I still love putting it on and enjoying it and turning to a sobbing mess on the couch while Jacob's sitting there shaking his head going, what do you see in this movie that makes you emotional? And it just does. Like, it just does. It hits me in all the right places and it works for me. Like, it just, I don't have an explanation. It's just one of those things where it just connects with me, makes me emotional. It works for me. Maybe I'm like the target audience where they're like, so people who haven't seen anything. This is going to hit them right where it works, and we're going to be successful. I don't know, but it works for me. Even when it doesn't work for me, it's just one of those things, and I love it. So I'm going to vote for it. So there we go.
I'm very much like Dan. So when we are watching it, I'm sitting there going, "Why are we watching this?"
And I'm like, "But Jacob, it's making me so emotional."
And I hate this movie. Like, I really do not like this movie at all. And Dan pretty much covered exactly why. So I'm gonna go. So I'm definitely voting for Incredible Hulk, which I think would have worked a lot better as an adaptation of the TV series. I think if it's an adaptation of the TV series, people accept it a lot more than this is an MCU Hulk movie. It also trying to be a sequel to Ang Lee's one wasn't a smart idea. Marisol.
Yeah. This is my favorite discussion so far because everybody's all over the map with this. Everybody's got a different take. I really like this. I do really like this. What's interesting for me, I'm a defender of Ang Lee's Hulk. Not that I think it's an amazing film, but I am a defender of it. I like it. I've watched it so many times as a teenager, disgusting amount of times as a teenager. And when I compare it, like looking at the Incredible Hulk, it's really difficult. The movie came out 5 years later. It's impossible to not like think about Ang Lee's film while you look at Incredible Hulk, especially like you said, Jacob, because it directly ties in it. Downgrade with a lot of the casting. Sorry, Liv Tyler. Sorry, William Hurt, but you're not better than Sam Elliott and Jennifer Connelly. I do think we upgraded with Edward Norton, who I think is a much stronger actor than Eric Bana. And I was more engaged.
Taking that personally.
I was about to say.
No, that's not
I think it's
like
illegal to say
Australian
that in
actors.
Australia.
All right, easy London.
Don't tell me
but-
what happened. I saw it happen.
But yeah, Norton automatically brings like a little wink behind the lines and a little more engagement and more character than Bana, who just looked like a deer in headlights for much of Ang Lee's film. Star Trek Into Darkness, it's so interesting to hear these takes, because for me, the way it landed for me is I felt like it was kind of a multiverse before I even knew, thank you, Spider-Man, before I even really knew what to call it. Or I guess Doctor Strange, I don't know who to credit anymore for this. But I felt like it was that kind of situation where it's just like, yes, this is the Khan storyline, obviously. But anything, they rebooted this series, like with the Kelvin timeline, they rebooted this universe. And the randomness of the universe is you can get something so similar to what already happened in this new universe. And that's the randomness of this all. That's for some reason it works for me. Like the rationale of it all. It makes sense for me, and it was so much easier for me to just accept it on those terms and enjoy the shit out of Star Trek Into Darkness. I really do enjoy that movie. This is the sexiest Benedict Cumberbatch's voice has ever sounded in a film. I think. I don't know. I don't know. Somebody correct me.
Never seen Black Mass.
Okay. I was like, no. Okay. All right.
No, I agree.
I get it. Okay. I get it. American Benedict Cumberbatch. I don't know whose idea was it to make
August Osage County.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Whatever. Just
Okay, I
we
haven't
all just
seen- I
need
haven't
to,
seen
as a
August Osage
society,
County yet.
just agree
That's
that Benedict Cumberbatch cannot do accents. Just don't make him do it. We'll just always accept whatever situation he's in. He
Agreed.
can be British, and we'll accept it, and it's fine. But the
I was gonna
American
say,
accent
like,
kills me.
yeah, whatever we can call in whatever the opposite of moisture. Can we call the Sahara factor? All right, can we call that whatever Benedict
Yes.
Cumberbatch is doing in
Fun.
Black Mass? It's a Sahara
Whatever
factor.
you're doing in Black Mass.
But I digress. Yeah, I Incredible Hulk is a mixed bag. I think maybe a more snappy, certainly more snappy, faster moving and episodic take on the Hulk for sure. Whereas Lee's was much more abstract. And I still prefer Lee's version though. And like I said, it's really hard for me not to compare the two. And it doesn't matter because I'm going to vote for Star Trek Into Darkness because I am one of these people who exists in this camp where I love Wrath of Khan and I really enjoy Star Trek Into Darkness. I enjoy both. And I separate the two in my enjoyment of them. And I just think the cast is just so fresh, and with their new interpretation of the characters, it still feels like a separate adventure to me and not a derivative adventure. So I'm going to vote for Into Darkness.
Adam.
Yeah, I kind of land somewhere in the middle on Into Darkness because I don't despise it. It's a minor installment as far as I'm concerned. It's definitely inferior to the first film in terms of its scope, what it introduces, the questions it asks. That said, though, I like a lot of the reversals it does. Some of the things it plays with. I like Spock just being angry and being a Vulcan of action there towards the end. That's kind of cool to see. But with the Incredible Hulk, I grew up watching a lot of reruns of the original show, and then as we've talked about in previous episodes, a lot of us have watched some of those TV movies or direct-to-video movies with Lou Ferrigno and Bill Bixby as well. And there's a fond place in my heart, and I appreciate that this movie was trying to recapture some of that. It didn't quite nail it. But I think that was really, a mixture of the director and Norton and the studio all kind of being at odds. And this was right on the heels of Iron Man, which just came out as like, this near perfect superhero movie at the time that people really didn't expect. And between that and, The Dark Knight, The Incredible Hulk had stiff competition that year. So I think a lot of people were harsh on it at the time. But I think what it does well is it focuses a lot on Bruce Banner, which is a character that I have always loved, and who I think he's kind of shortchanged in the MCU movies overall. I think Mark Ruffalo is a great Bruce, but I want him to have his own movie again. And it's a shame that the rights are so complicated that we can't just get a normal like Hulk movie again, because seeing him in Thor Ragnarok and all these other movies is great. I would rather have some Hulk than no Hulk at all. But I really am ready for a new standalone Hulk movie because he is a character who's literally larger than life. Bruce is, this modern interpretation of Jekyll and Hyde that is just such a more balanced concept that, evolves with every era that the Hulk exists in. And I think the Incredible Hulk deserves credit for attempting that and for returning to some of those themes. And I also I really like Tim Roth in this movie. I like that he's just got a chip on his shoulder, and he gets angrier and more vengeful as the film goes on. And I like that his physical trauma plays into, his aggression as the film goes on as well. But yeah, like Marisol said, it is a mixed bag. It doesn't all come together perfectly, but I have such a fondness for this character. And I feel like Ang Lee's film and this film both show what's possible with giving Hulk a little bit more of the spotlight. And I would like it if Universal would, take a page out of Sony's book and sort stuff out so we could get more standalone Hulk content, because he's a great character, and this movie showed what's possible even when people aren't entirely on the same page. So I vote for the Incredible Hulk.
which means, Robert, you have the deciding vote.
Ooh.
This is interesting because I would like to be accepted back into the home in Arkansas again.
Because Mara voted
Oh,
Into
sorry.
Darkness. Yeah.
Sorry, I counted Mara subconsciously as voting on my side.
So I think these movies are pretty equal for me for as far as their enjoyment. I think there's a lot to like in both of them, and I think both of them are a little bit overly maligned. Incredible Hulk, I think, honestly, has some of the best action sequences in all of Phase 1 of the MCU. The college lawn fighting sequence, I think, is really great. The whole third act of Incredible Hulk, I think, really rocks. Everything with Abomination, everything in Harlem, everything with their fight, I think, is done really, really, really well. I also like Edward Norton. I can't speak for him as a person, similar to Dan, but in the role, I think he does a good job. I think Incredible Hulk is overly maligned. Excuse me. That's because of what happened before the stream started. And I like Incredible Hulk quite a bit. I also like Into Darkness quite a bit. I think that there is a lot to like with the new cast. I really like the relationship between Uhura and Spock. I think that's explored really well. I think Carl Urban as Bones is my favorite of the new crew. Bones is my favorite character of the old crew too. The reason I'm going to vote for Incredible Hulk is I think Into Darkness did one of the things that is my biggest pet peeves with like blockbuster, not just filmmaking, TV, like modern pop culture, which is like the death fake, which is the killing somebody and then bringing them back without any change. I think maybe just because I'm such a fanboy for Lord of the Rings, but like in Lord of the Rings, Gandalf the White is not Gandalf the Grey. Like that is a different character. If you bring them back and something changes very significantly about the character, their view on the world, their perspective, I think that can be really interesting. But bringing a character back just because you don't want them to die yet and having no other change in the character, I think is one of the worst things that's happened in the last 20 years. Like it's the worst part. One of the worst parts of the last 2 or 3 seasons of Game of Thrones. It's some of the worst stuff that has happened in the MCU. I just think that the death fake is like a plague, and it is done so distastefully in Into Darkness. And I hate how Kirk is just the same dude. We thought he was dead and we leveraged that emotion. It does make you feel emotional when he dies, that ultimate sacrifice that means something. And then 15 minutes later, he wakes up in a hospital bed. And it's just like, then why the fuck did you kill him in the first place? Like it is very frustrating when those kind of things happen. It's a huge pet peeve for me. So I have to vote for Incredible Hulk because it doesn't have any of that dumb shit.
Not to try and change a vote, but I'm gonna get my opinion out there and say I respectfully disagree. I think Kirk is a completely different person in the following movie because of the fact that he died in that film. But that's just my personal reading, and I would like to put that out there for the record.
Fair enough. All right, with that, Incredible Hulk does make it through, and Star Trek Into Darkness has been eliminated.
I hope you, if you were planning on sleeping at all this weekend, I hope it wasn't in this house.
That's
just
fair.
so that you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it was going to be eliminated by this next one anyway.
I don't care. It's the principle of the thing. What's the point of
I'm
doing
going to
the
have
bracket
to
then?
excuse
fair.
myself because every time something I really, really loved is eliminated, this hasn't happened so far. We're a while into this and it hasn't happened so far, but every time something I really, really loves and it's eliminated, I'm going to ingest some hard liquor.
Hey,
She's getting out the Evan Swilliams.
Next up, this is the Robert Parker torture chamber,
Yeah.
and I am going to make him go first because
That's
I don't
unfortunate.
want the actual result to influence him.
No,
So X-Men First Class versus Lord of the Rings: The Fellowship of the Ring.
I'm going to vote for one movie and spend my entire time talking about the other movie, just so you know. I'm going to vote for Fellowship of the Ring because I think it is probably my favorite film of all time, maybe second. I think it is a masterclass in what world building and character development and, more importantly, storytelling can be. I think it is the perfect story told on screen in a film. That said, I'm going to talk about First Class for a little bit, which is my favorite X-Men movie. over Logan, over Days of Future Pat. Like, it is my favorite X-Men movie because I love the relationship between Charles and Eric in this movie. It is developed so fully. Everything from when Charles stops Eric from drowning himself with the sub, to when he gets him to turn the radar dish, to when they're disagreeing in Cuba, when Charles is in Shaw's mind and Eric's put the coin through it, and Charles can like physically feel that pain. It's just done so well. Like, this is the ultimate X-Men movie for me because it's not a Wolverine movie. And I love 2 of those original 3 X-Men movies, but those are Wolverine movies. This is the first X-Men movie, and it fucking rocks. I love Michael Fassbender as much as I love Ian McKellen. I love Michael Fassbender as Magneto. I think he just fully embodies this role. I think Kevin Bacon does exactly what he needs to. I think the Young Mutants, that small group, are done so well, and they act like kids with powers who are just like free for the first time. Like that scene where they're like partying and testing each other's powers. I know some people bash on it, but it's like these kids are like under the protection of the government and not like, and they're still hated. There's still people coming to their window laughing at them, but they feel part of something for the first time, and I think that's so special. I think the montage where Charles is sort of introducing them to the mansion and training them, Havoc in the basement, and he's running around with Beast. I think that is like straight out of the comics. As much as Ang Lee's Hulk is, you see the different pains coming out. I think that's so cleverly edited. Henry Jackman's score is the best score of any X-Men movie in First Class. What else can I gush about this movie? I like January Jones as Emma Frost. I know a lot of people think that that's a big knock on this movie. I actually really like how that character is portrayed and her devotion to Shaw. I think it's really interesting. Man, yeah, First Class fucking rocks. That movie is so good. I think, honestly, at this point, it's super underrated. It's the movie that, like, made me want to be like, hey, what else has this guy directed? And, like, kind of made me fall in love with Matthew Vaughn as a director. I haven't seen Layer Cake, though, which is, I should go back and watch that. But, yeah, First Class. The biggest, I think, problem, one of the biggest problems that the new X-Men series of films has is the timing in universe of the films. In X-Men Apocalypse, you don't buy that this takes place 20 years after First Class, because Nicholas Hoult doesn't look like he's 20 years older, and Rose Byrne doesn't look like she's 20 years older. It's a huge flaw, but that's those movies' problems. It's not First Class problem. I think this movie is so pure. I love seeing Charles as this cocky, arrogant guy who's trying to hit on girls at bars using his powers. I think that's just, he's not perfect. And I think they portray the flaws of Charles and the purity of Eric in a way that meshes so equally for one of them being the hero and one of them being the villain. I just think there's so much right in First Class, and for all of the reasons, I'm going to vote Fellowship of the Ring because it's a perfect movie.
Okay, can I go next?
Yeah, you're up.
Okay, I didn't give a shit about any of the X-Men movies until First Class came out, so well done to First Class. It actually got me interested to go watch the movies. I don't know if this is unpopular. It might be unpopular, but any of the X-Men movies before First Class, don't care. Get it out. Done. First Class is the only reason I started caring about the X-Men. It's the only reason I started caring about these characters and wanting to know more about them and wanting to see more from them, which is unfortunate because pretty much everything after First Class is like, eh. So I have my one movie where I'm like, all right, I suppose I'll cherish this forever and it's fine. But I think the casting is great. I think the music is great. I think the story is great. And there's not really much that I have on it that I don't enjoy. And I just kind of look at it and go, man, we could have had so many great movies spawn from this, and then that didn't happen. But X-Men First Class, I'm definitely voting for. Lord of the Rings is good. Lord of the Rings is good. But Jacob dragged me to the freaking screenings of the director's cut. Whatever.
No, they did
what was that we went to?
There was a screening near us, or not near us, it was about an hour's drive away. Did a marathon of all three extended editions.
I did that last year. In the
equivalent of IMAX.
That was the longest freaking day of my life.
Yeah. And it started at 11 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was like, yeah, we're going. I don't care. We're going. We got home at 1 a.m. in the morning. So it was so worth
there's
it.
a lot that I appreciate about Lord of the Rings, but not enough to go through that. Let me tell you.
Marisol.
Let me open with a very controversial statement. Fellowship of the Ring is one of the best fucking movies ever made. Okay? It is. It is. It is one of not only my personal favorites, it is a benchmark cinematic achievement. As is the entire Lord of the Rings trilogy. I cannot contain my enthusiasm for this film. Is it obvious? It is one of my personal favorite films ever. I think it is. God, Jesus, God, this is one of the most perfect films I've ever seen. It is such a risk. It incites everything that it reminds us why film matters and why it is so important for filmmakers. Production wise, if you're somebody who's ever interested in film production or filmmaking, there are few. This is one of the movies on the list. This is one of the films on the list. Fellowship of the Ring is one of the films on the list that reminds you why you should be a filmmaker and why you should push for what you wish to create as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, why you should fight against bureaucracy, why you should fight against studio heads. And Peter Jackson pushed for this film, pushed to bring it to fruition, and put so much craft. He single-handedly boosted the economy of a country with this film. New Zealand salutes you, Peter Jackson. He went to this film did so much for filmmaking. It brought craft back to the forefront. It employed thousands upon thousands of artists, craftsmen. Is one of the best examples of the ultimate example of collaborative filmmaking, embracing artists on every single level, from screenwriting to swordsmen to prosthetics to horse trainers to whatever you could imagine, from makeup artists. It is one of the most impressively collaborative films ever made. And it was just a start because they filmed all of these films back to back to back. I cannot say enough amazing things about not only the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but my personal favorite Lord of the Rings film, Fellowship of the Ring. And then on top of that, it's not enough to just be impressive, like production-wise, pre-production-wise. It became a global phenomenon, and it engaged so many people so many Tolkien heads who were dying to see this film for decades. And then brought fantasy, exploded fantasy on the map in such a legitimate way that film lovers have never forgotten. Brought it into the mainstream, and became a international sensation. It's stunning. Fellowship of the Ring is one of the most important films of the 21st century. In terms of mainstream filmmaking, in terms of impact, in terms of craftsmanship, in terms of commitment of a filmmaker to pushing through on a passion project, in terms of employing people involved, in terms of employing and giving respect to the creation of film and what that entails, and all the people and the hard work and the hours of work that entails. It's so hard to find a film that matches what Fellowship of the Ring did. X-Men First Class is a fun film. It is a film that I do need to revisit. I've only seen it like 3 times, but it's still very difficult with the X-Men canon because the first 3 established so much. It's just so hard. The X-Men films that come after the first 3, it's so hard to believe that like So everything that happened in those first three, you're trying to tell me that people did not know about mutants, and then they know so much about mutants in the 60s, but like everybody seems to understand so much about mutants in the 60s and 70s, but we have no idea about mutants in like the 2000s in the original films. That's always been difficult for me in the canon. That's always been a little bit messy for me with the canon of the X-Men films, because they seem to really stick to it. And just kind of act like people don't notice. I was like, no, they were doing this in the 60s too. And then they act like they forgot by the time, the first X-Men movie came out. So we're starting from square one with those films. That's always been a little bit messy for me, but I still think that we get just gold with McAvoy and Fassbender. And I still think it's a fun X-Men film, and this is not to shit on that movie at all, because I think it's a fun film, but it's just everything that I just said, it pales in comparison to the unbelievable impact and excellence and regality that is Lord of the Rings: Fellowship of the Ring. End of marital rant. No, that wasn't even a rant. That was just some
Passion.
feels. That was some feels. I'm very passionate about the Lord of the Rings films, but particularly Fellowship of the Ring. I think this is a very important film. Please keep it.
Adam, you're on mute.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Like Marisol, I have also seen The Fellowship of the Ring, and I think that it is a fine movie. I actually, when this first came up, a fine hit. It was a fine hit, and I've taken many fine hits before rewatching this movie. I love The Fellowship of the Ring. And I saw it 5 times in theaters. I waxed poetic on it in its first round. I do not Goblet of Fire this movie. Do not. I'm not in the mood. If I hear the Reigns of Castamere start playing, I'm going to hit the ceiling. Do not betray me.
Should I play the red one?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Fellowship of the Ring is one of my favorite movies too. But X-Men First Class deserves credit for being, I guess, for me, the best Matthew Vaughn movie that isn't Stardust. I do think it brought
is so good.
Stardust is great. It's really great. But X-Men First Class, like it brought X-Men back into the mainstream in a great way. It reinvigorated interest in the franchise. Brought the X-Men to their roots in the 60s, which is really cool. Which is why I think this has just such a fond place in so many people's hearts. But I think what X-Men First Class did really right was getting Fassbender and McAvoy, like people have been saying. Because I think even in Apocalypse and Dark Phoenix, they're two of the most steady aspects of this iteration of X-Men. So First Class deserves a lot of credit, but Fellowship of the Ring, as far as I'm concerned, is a perfect movie. And I think when it comes to the trilogy, what makes it special for me is not only does it set up everything really well, but it has several moments of fully inclusive adventures that all have an impact on the next adventure that takes place after that. And you feel the impact on these characters every time. Just it always hits me every time I'm watching this film when they go to Lothlorien and they're all really contending with the idea that Gandalf is dead, because he's a character that to them was older than time. Even to someone like Legolas, who's basically the same age as Gandalf, he still looked up to him. And just the gravity of the mortality of a character even like him is something that always really hits me really hard when I watch this movie, even though I know everything that happens. So I have more to say, but I love The Fellowship of the Ring. I hope it wins. I'd love to see it go all the way to the end, honestly. It's one of my contenders.
Dan.
I think we'll have more time to talk about it. We're gonna frame it for you here. Why I love Fellowship of the Ring so much. It is my favorite Lord of the Rings movie. Several reasons why. One of them being, again, we're playing Dan is old here. 2001, December 2001, Fellowship of the Ring comes out. I'm a college freshman. The trailer comes out. I think it looks pretty interesting. So I say, all right, I'm going to pick up this first book. I'm going to pick up this first Tolkien book, and I'm going to try it. But again, like I said, I'm kind of take it or leave it on fantasy. I'm like, if I don't like it, I won't finish it. I'll go see the movie. And I got so hooked. Like every night I would read 3 or 4, however many chapters. And then I go back and I watch the trailer again. And I'd be like, oh, that's the Pass of Caradhras. And then I go back and I read, and then I'm like, oh, that's the Bridge of Khazad-dûm. And I did that the whole time. I finished the first book before I saw the movie. So it really got me into like Lord of the Rings and Tolkien. And I'd read The Hobbit, and we did like the stage play The Hobbit when I was in high school. So I knew the background of the story, but like I got so into.
Did it take you 3 nights to do The Hobbit?
No, we did it in one night, and it was a much more complex story. So I got so into those movies and so into the books, and I ended up reading. I think I'd read all the books by Christmas that year. I was just voraciously reading them, and so just the experience of reading that book. And I remember reading The Bridge of Khazad-dûm and thinking, like, "Oh my God!" Like I was shocked. And then I was like, okay, well, they'll never be able to do this in the movies like they did it in the book. And then they did it. And so I realized that, like, not only was Lord of the Rings a great movie, it was an incredible adaptation of this book. And I know people were whining a little bit about Tom Bombadil, etc. I get it, but you can't put everything in. We saw that with The Hobbit, where you did put everything in. You add everything in, and it just isn't as compelling. So
Amazon series, there's still time.
Yeah. Well, and the extended editions put back in so much stuff, and I love the extended editions as well. But just like on a super personal note, and I'm not going to bring us too far down, but I will also say, as an 18-year-old living away from home for the very first time, this movie comes out in December 2001. It was a very crazy time to be living away from home for the first time, and to be,
especially when you were a fraction of a second away from going to NYU.
Yeah. I mean, it was it was just a very weird time to be living away from home. With everything that happened in the previous few months. And I remember distinctly, and I'm sure I had read this passage in the book, but I remember distinctly watching the movie when they're down in Moria, and they're trying to figure out which way to go. And Frodo says, I wish the ring had never come to me. I wish none of this had ever happened. And Gandalf says, so do all who live to see such times. But that's not to us to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the times that are given to us. It was like a voice reaching out from the past, and it just grabbed me in that moment in time. And I was just like, oh my God. I mean, like, that was a very profound. I'm like, when I'm 18 years old, I'm an easy cry now. At that time, I was made of iron. I'm not an easy cry because, I hadn't gone through anything in my life, really. That almost moved me to tears, because it's like, you understand that there's people that have lived in this world through hard times before you. And that, they can have things to say. And so that's such a profound moment for me. I'll talk about everything else that I love in the movie, but like, this is my origin story for why I love Fellowship of the Ring. X-Men First Class is a great movie. It turned the whole franchise around, because it was just a shit pile at that point, and generated a couple more good movies. But I really just adore Fellowship of the Ring, and look forward to talking about it more. But yeah, my vote's for Fellowship of the Ring.
Mara?
So, couple things. I just want to mention, by the way, it's not a race, and it's not every single franchise where it's like, well, it's not my favorite of these movies, so I'll vote for my favorite of these other movies. But I'm going to preface this by saying that Fellowship is not my favorite Lord of the Rings film. I'm one of the unpopular people that likes Two Towers the best. But I want to focus on First Class here. One thing I just have to acknowledge, that any movie that just shows someone going to Argentina to hunt down Nazis is going to be a slam dunk for me in a lot of ways, because, man, that just, it really works. I obviously have a lot of empathy for what those feelings are. So easy mark. Negative though, bad wig work. I care. We talked about this just the other day, Robbie. I care a lot about the fact that there is some just horrific wig work in that movie. There's no excuse. Now, Fellowship, excellent wig work, like some of the best there's ever been. I think that I can't believe no one has mentioned moisture factors involved with both of these films, because I think that I can go into actual like straight up criticism about them, but I don't want to because everyone else already glowed many technical achievements and about the filmmaking, etc. So I'm going to focus on the trivial just for the moment. Fassbender, duh. I mean, duh. I don't even, there's no one else I need to care about in that movie. But man, Fellowship is just like a thirst trap of a film. Like Legolas, I think one of the most singularly appealing characters in all of the history of film. I don't know a single human being that's attracted to any other human being that doesn't find something very appealing about Legolas.
He's a beautiful man.
He's a beautiful creature.
Like
I mean,
a porcelain
he doesn't
doll.
even need to have a gender. He's just beautiful.
Yeah.
Galadriel, my
Hello.
God. Like, and plus she's never going to age. I'm convinced she's just going to look the same forever. Like the actual Kate Blanchett doesn't age.
Mhm.
She is Galadriel. They're one thing.
She's the elf.
Oh, right.
No, she and Angela Bassett from the same tribe.
The Balrog.
Oh, that Balrog is DTF. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
He is ripped.
Yeah.
He's used that whip in more than one way. We'll just say
the
that.
dwarf
Oh,
definitely also hangs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
oh,
Pippin? Yes, I know. Pippin is definitely the superior hobbit. I agree, Sir Pounce. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I know I've dragged this out long enough. I really enjoy both these movies. I do. I think First Class is it needed to overcome a lot of bad taste in the mouth left over, and I think it did that in spades. But man, if you also want to talk about a bad taste in the mouth, Bakshi's Lord of the Rings, it's not very good. So pardon me for having some reservations about the possibility that another Lord of the Rings film may be not the best idea.
Mhm.
Also, as Adam previously mentioned, Rankin Bass, very much you need to check out. But man, like this movie had so much heavy lifting to do, not just from the idea of it being an adaptation of very dense source material, but also characterization and interwoven tales that also have to stand on their own movie to movie, because I do think that it's still a fully formed movie despite being part of a trilogy. Yeah, I know I'm getting there. But I think one of the things that I hang my hat on the most about why I'm definitely going to vote for Fellowship and why it isn't a contest is that movie is already very lengthy. It's a film of considerable length. But the idea that like every single time I've watched it since the extended editions have come out, I don't even bother going back to that theatrical cut, because every single ounce of that movie I can get every time I watch it is necessary viewing. And don't get me wrong, First Class is a lot of fun, but I don't need 40 more minutes of it. I don't. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. Maybe it'd be really cool. Maybe it'd be really fun. But I need as many minutes of Fellowship of the Ring and the other two Lord of the Rings films as I can possibly get every single time. So I like First Class, but sadly it was a slam dunk Fellowship vote for me. Also, great wigs, great abs.
All right. With that, Fellowship makes it through to
have
the
you
next
won, Wigs?
round.
Will you wear wigs? When will you wear wigs? About
Next
20% of people get that joke, and thank you.
no, wait, please, no. I've watched this movie. Just please jog my memory. Trivia people, jog my memory. Please,
No
just
idea. I don't get that reference.
I don't
No,
know.
I've watched this
the
film.
wigs thing.
Yes.
That's an Easter egg on the Return of the King DVD.
Yes, with Elijah Wood. When Billy
it's a
Boyd,
fake
when
movie
Dominic
where
Monaghan is
Monaghan-
talking to Elijah
Yes,
Wood.
Dominic
And
Monaghan
Elijah Wood's like,
satellite
what?
introduces
And
Elijah
he's
Wood.
like, do you that big? Yeah.
I
And
fired
he's
I
the
fired
German
that
reporter.
YouTube video about once a week.
Oh my god!
Now-
No,
Frank
it always
interview-
pops
yeah.
up in my suggested, and if
Yeah.
I haven't watched it a billion times already.
Billy Boyd and Dom Monahan had their own commentary track, right? Because they like,
Yes.
they had to have their own.
Well, every time they get to like, because on the extended editions, every time they get to like, they have like, you know, like the production like commentary, the director commentary, the screenwriter commentary, and then whenever they have like the actor commentary, it's always fucking Billy Boyd and like Dominic Monaghan. They're just like, yeah, we'll do it. It's like always them on the actor commentary, and it's great.
All right. Next up, we have two final ones for round 2, and then we got to kind of sprint into round.
Don't tell
3.
me what to do.
Yeah, Blunden.
Escape from Planet of the Apes versus Howard the Duck.
It's
It
bad,
turned
baby.
up. Mara.
I'm gonna be even more brief than ever. Fuck Howard the Duck. It took away Glass, and I know what the shape of a duck penis is. Escape has a lot of actually really interesting themes in it. I love that they worship a bomb. Fuck everything. The world sucks. Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
This is Escape, not Beneath, huh?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, this is even better than that one. Sorry, this one's actually great. Oh my god. Sorry. I was just so angry at Howard the Duck. Yeah, this movie's great. This movie rocks. Like, there are no reservations about it. Also, man, like, how dark is it that you're spoiler alert for the like 60-year-old movie almost, that your baby that's been fatally wounded that you toss over the side of a ship. Like, that's some dark stuff. I love it. Yeah, fuck Howard the Duck.
Robert.
My bad.
Yeah, I voted for Howard the Duck last time. I think part of that may have been because of influence of outside substances.
Disagree.
I regret that. In hindsight, I should have voted for Glass, but I didn't. That said, Escape
Oh,
from
that
the Planet of the
matters
Apes-
fuck all now, doesn't it?
Sure does. Sure does. You're right.
Glass
Yeah.
would have made it past this round. Well, maybe. I don't know. If
No,
would
I
vote
don't
for
think
it.
so.
I wouldn't.
Adam
Maybe.
was too convincing. Howard the Duck is not a good movie, but I do like Tim Robbins and I do like Leah Thompson. I do like some of the stuff that's going on with Howard the Duck. It's ridiculous in the cheesy Marvel kind of way. Escape from the Planet of the Apes is a damn good movie. It is one of the best. Well, there's two others, but it is very, very. Murder would never murder me. If she was going to do that, she had her chance. The Escape from the Planet of the Apes is a damn good movie. I love Grape Juice Plus. I love the interrogation. I love them trying to hide her pregnancy. I love that the villain is just a human who works for the government. Like, I think that is extending the themes and the interesting commentary of what the original series has to say. I think is extended in this movie way more than Beneath. Yeah, Escape from the Planet of the Apes is really, really good.
Dan.
I had actually not seen any of the original Planet of the Apes sequels until this year when I was watching them with her as
So
she was
good.
prepping for IG. And of all of them, Escape from the Planet of the Apes was actually my favorite.
I thought you liked Conquest better.
I liked a lot of them, but Escape was my favorite. I just liked the sort of like satire of the media and the allegory. It's I don't know. I like that movie. Howard the Duck is so fucking bad. It's not even ironically enjoyable to me. It is a chore. I don't like that movie at all. Escape from the Planet of the Apes, easily for me.
Honestly, any Planet of the Apes, really.
Mm-hmm.
Even Burton's, I'd vote for.
I
over
put
Howard the
Burton's
Duck.
over Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
I don't get the
same.
ironic worship of Howard the Duck. I'm not on the same page.
That's fair. Taylor.
The fact that I have to vote in this and Glass is not one of the options, I will never forgive anyone who voted for Howard the Duck. I won't do it. So I guess I fucking have to vote for the one that's not Howard the Duck, but is also not Glass.
Well, you got the chance to eliminate Howard the Duck with your vote.
I don't know if that even makes up for it after what I had to sit through last episode when we were talking about this movie. I don't know if anything will ever make up for that. So there you go. That's my vote.
Adam,
Look,
as the instigator for that.
Yeah, as the person who's to blame for all of this nonsense.
look.
Your
Yeah,
turn.
don't
am-
yell at me.
Here's my point. The whole Howard the Duck thing was an exercise. Okay, we were dealing with a skeleton crew that episode, if memory serves, and at the same time, when we got to that particular matchup between Glass and Howard the Duck, I made it clear that my personal reasons had to do with the fact that I didn't need Glass to be a movie in the first place. And I like Split and Unbreakable as separate movies. And I wasn't really into the way it all came together. Howard the Duck, moving forward, that whole discussion was basically to point out the fact that, yeah, this is a bad movie. It is. That has never been something I'm trying to convince people of otherwise. The thing with Howard the Duck, though, is when I watch it, there are things in it that I think are mildly amusing. That said, we already had that discussion. Okay. I just wanted, I know not everyone was here for that particular episode.
Look, I could have been voting for Anya Taylor-Joy and James McAvoy, and instead I'm sitting here upset for no reason because no one actually likes Howard the Duck.
Hey, we all did meth that night. It was, you know,
I didn't.
We had our reason.
I was
Speak for
clear-headed.
yourself.
Anyway.
But Escape from Planet of the Apes, I agree. It's one of the best of the original sequels. After Beneath, they really didn't know where to go. So doing like the first like real time travel apes movie, it just ended up being a really cool experiment. And like Dan said, you know, there's a lot of inherent satire to this film that's really clever. But it really, what it does though is for two movies, we see the apes as the villains. Yeah, it is, William. It is. We see the apes as the villains, and this is the first thing that really like sets them up as more empathetic than they've been at any point in the series thus far. And really putting them at the center of the story. And I think if you look at Escape and Conquest, you see the heart of the new trilogy of films, especially. So I think Escape is a really strong movie in and of itself. I think it's one of the best overall Apes films. I am sorry, Taylor, about the whole Glass thing. Thank you for inviting me back. This has been a fun experiment with Howard the Duck, but Escape from the Planet of the Apes is a much better movie. It's a much better movie. Okay. Experiment's over.
I rarely do this, but I'm going to exercise my right to be an asshole right now. And just to shake it up, just for chaos sakes. I know it's not very fun, and that's not very. I know I would be fuming if I were on the receiving end of this.
You're personally going to give me PTSD, Marisol. I hope you realize what you're about to do.
Stop. Don't put that on my conscience.
No. If it had a chance of making it through, maybe, but it's okay.
It doesn't.
Exactly. This is. Yes. There's no legitimate threat here. That's why I feel comfortable doing it.
She likes Cleveland-based films.
I mean, can you blame me? Yeah. I mean,
go Browns.
Jim Brown, yeah. Go Browns.
Yeah.
Dog pound. But yeah, I'm gonna vote for Howard the Duck.
It's a Friday night bracket show. Why not?
Just because. Yes, I'm going to even go a step further and say unnecessary things and say that objectively, Escape from the Planet of the Apes is a much better film, objectively. But we're not even talking about that. That is irrelevant. We're talking about Howard the Duck here. Chaos vote.
I just want anyone. I just want Marisol and Parker to know that if Howard the Duck shows up in Spectacular, you guys better be ready. That's all I'm saying.
I will say I want Howard the Duck.
80% more likely to show up in mine.
I will be ready with bullet notes. I will defend this shit like it's Fellowship of the Ring.
I don't know how it came up, but at one point we were talking about if there was like a multiverse where Howard the Duck became Blade, and I googled it, and there is Blade the Duck. If you look it up, it's a thing. Yeah, Blade the Duck happened in the comic
on the show. I remember this.
Yeah.
And I do think Howard the Duck should come back. I think if he came into the MCU in like a Guardians movie as like, you know, a minor character more than a cameo, I'd be cool with that. Just saying.
Well, with that, Howard the Duck has been eliminated.
I think we need to commemorate this. Despite Marisol's chaos vote, despite eliminating Glass, which I was not here for and would not have allowed to happen.
But we got messaged about it while we were really hungover.
We were
at
hungover on
7 p.m.
vacation.
Wine in the back of Family car.
Howard the
100
Duck.
miles an hour on the freeway.
Howard the Duck's reign of terror in this bracket has ended.
And
Of all the
and there's
movies.
Blade the Duck in case I,
Of all the movies I've encountered in this bracket, Howard the Duck was the most
Human.
shitty.
Also, Taylor, I have something to cheer you up to make up for all of this trauma.
Okay, great.
Oh, I like Howard the Duck and Lobo.
Guess what got dropped on the ground outside my house today? This fucking box that was supposed to go to Australia that got turned around at the border apparently because they suspended U.S. mail delivery to Australia because of the pandemic. So guess what? You're getting in LA in 10 days.
Whoa.
Yeah.
2 months later.
2 months later.
Why
I
on
mailed
earth
that
did that-
September 5th, Taylor.
Why on earth would that have gotten sent? That's weird. That is weird.
That doesn't make sense
When
to
they
me
had the
because
hard
we
border.
have been getting mail. So, like, why would they just be like,
It says
nope, you're
mail
not allowed to
service
send.
suspended.
Yeah, it's I assume
It's
a
not
pandemic-related
lost
thing.
in the oblivion of everything. I'm like, okay,
I just
whatever-
could
we
not
can vote
believe
out
it, like-
whatever movie. I don't care anymore. Doesn't matter.
Like
Doesn't
I watched
matter,
the
don't
doorbell
care.
cam and I watched the guy literally walk up and just at like chest level just drop it onto the ground outside our house. So I imagine it's gonna be fun to open.
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm so excited. That just made my whole. I don't care what happens anymore. Doesn't matter.
Make sure you've got room in your luggage. So
it will replace your chocolate.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll swap
Adam-
you for all the chocolate we're bringing, and then we can put that in the suitcase.
Adam, can you text me that Blade the Duck picture? I think I want to get
Yes.
that tattooed on my back.
you can use Google on your own, Robbie. Jesus.
No, I want to get that tattooed
There's
on my
also
back. I want that
Howard
picture.
Poole. Howard Poole.
Are we creating a whole new Howard the Duck podcast? Is that what's happening?
That's a good one.
Oh my!
Alrighty.
What's next?
Last one of round 2, and then we got 4 more matchups.
All right, what's happening?
feel
The
better?
Old
Did it work?
Guard, the Star Trek Insurrection.
Star Trek heavy episodes.
Yes.
Yeah, as I said, this was the Star Trek episode, and Dan missed it last time. Dan.
Well, I feel bad. I don't know what to do in this situation. I have not yet watched The Old
Well,
Guard.
should you go last then, so you can just listen to what everyone else says?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. No,
Should I-
because if your vote
I'll
doesn't
abstain
count,
for now unless my vote becomes meaningful.
then-
Which
Alright.
seems weird because that's like the opposite of abstaining, but it is what it is.
Robert.
Hey.
Yeah, this one's actually pretty interesting. Old Guard, I think, is pretty good. I think Charlize Theron has really found her vein in the last, 5-10 years of doing these action movies, and I think she kills it. I really like just the premise, the idea that there are these, these eternal figures who can't die, and I just think it's really interesting. I love how they're these sort of ancient, civilizations, and they have been, gathering and growing together as a team throughout the course of these movies. And I really like what Kiki Lang does. I really, really love. I think obviously the best part of the movie of Old Guard is the relationship between the two members of the team, Joe and the other one. There's a really, really, really great and endearing romance between two men in this movie, and I think it's just incredible. There's a scene where they're both like kept captive. The Old Guard, I think, really, really, really does a great job handling that relationship. Star Trek Insurrection, I think, is the most, maybe the most mixed bag Star Trek movie for me. I think there's just so much that is just fucking bonkers, like the face stretching machine and the Data talking about how boobs have firmed up and Klingon puberty. It's just they put everything into a mixing pot and we're like, let's see what happens. That's Star Trek, and Kirk dancing to the mambo. I think it has the lowest lows of any movie in the 4 Next Generation movies. Some of the tops are like, the themes in the movie are actually really interesting. Like when Picard is saying, how many will it take until it matters? And they're like, oh, it's only 600 people. Well, how many does it take until it becomes wrong? Like Picard sticking to his moral values, I think, is really interesting. Him define Starfleet, really, and his entire crew following him, I think is a really interesting aspect of this movie. That said, I think the lows are just too low for me. Data learning the value of fun, and there's just a lot with Insurrection that is just too much for me. Whereas Old Guard, I think, has some really, really, really great stuff. Great action, great needle drops. Harry Melling is like a really good villain because, again, it's just like a human who is in charge of a company who wants to get rich. And I think that's a very real, I think there's some good commentary on that. Old Guard, I think, takes this one for me.
I just want to thank Curtis for the $13 donation. Rest in peace, Howie. Pour one out for a real one. Thank you very much.
Howard the Duck is a real one, apparently, that we're pouring one out for. So thank you for
Thanks,
the
Howie.
donation.
Thank
Very
you.
kind.
Thank you for the donation. Taylor.
Yeah, sure. This one's pretty easy for me just because I feel like I like the Old Guard more than most people do. I feel like people are kind of mixed on it, but I really, really am on the high end of really liking the Old Guard a lot. I think Charlize Theron is great in this role. You can tell that she's really into it. She's really enjoying being this character and is really putting a lot into it. I like the themes of immortality that it deals with, and just kind of how that weighs on a lot of these characters in different ways. And I just think that, as Robert said, the romance is handled beautifully. I think it's very touching. Harry Melling is great. The villain kind of being, corporate pharmaceutical kind of company is very relevant. And I think I think that it's a gem that I wasn't expecting. It's kind of a movie I put on to watch because I needed to watch it. And I really, really ended up enjoying it a lot. I'm very interested to see what we're going to get out of the follow-up movie to it, because I think the first film ties things up pretty well, but there are still some really interesting things we can explore. I really liked the action in the movie as well. I thought it was shot very well. And I just had a lot of fun with it. So for me, this is pretty easily the Old Guard. Not that I vehemently dislike Insurrection, but I really like the Old Guard a lot.
We also got another donation. Adrian for $5. Hi, guys. Just wanted to say hi and say thanks for these shows. They have been really fun. Rest in peace, Howard the Duck. You will not be missed. Thanks. Thank you so much for the donation, Adrian. Thank you very much. And yes, rest in peace, Howard.
We're glad that you guys enjoy these shows where we start throwing hands over Howard the Duck and just, just fun stuff like that. It's a great time. Thank you for hanging out with us for these shows.
Marisol.
Yeah. This is not a fair comparison, only because I have such unremarkable, really, really old memories about Insurrection. And Old Guard I saw last year. Only saw once. So it's not equal footing, my memory of the two, and my opinion on the two. Old Guard I do like, but I don't love. I think it is a mixed bag movie, the same way that I remember Insurrection. And I think that as Old Guard has a lot of potential. I think that there are some budget restraints that are really obvious in the film, especially in the third act, which just looks like it just takes place in somebody's apartment. That final battle looks like it takes place. I think you're feeling the budget in that climactic battle at the end, and Charlize is pretty terrific. I think Old Guard, where it really stands out and it really gets a lot of props, is while you make great use of Kiki Lane and Charlize Theron, I think you underutilized Chiwetel Ejiofor in that film drastically, but give a good spotlight to a same-sex romance, and give it a lot of weight and give it its meaning. I think there are some great things, and I think that are also countered by some underwhelming underwhelming things in the film. I think the pacing could have been a little bit. I think the edit could have been a little bit tighter on the Old Guard. I was still engaged with it, but and the characters were still interesting, but it still seemed a tad dreary. I still like the film. It sounds like I don't like the film. I still like the film. It just had its fair share of flaws, but a lot of things that I liked about it as well. Again, clearly I have so much more to say about it than Insurrection.
There you go.
Yeah, I guess that's my answer right there. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go with Old Guard. I think that's telling, because even if there's some Star Trek films that, even though I haven't seen them for a handful of years, I still really enjoy them, because they're memorable, and Insurrection is not memorable enough to me. And Old Guard, I would like to see a sequel to this movie. Let's make it happen.
William, I would like to thank for his $10 donation. Please don't give Howard the Duck that soup of blood.
I just want to say Howard is bringing out the super chat money. So
it is. I'm not now. I'm really now not complaining.
I think Blunden has to do a one-man watch along to that film.
I think you do. But I also think that people are donating because they see like how much PTSD I'm going through, that Howard the Duck made it this far, and they're like, all right, we gotta do something about this.
we gotta help her.
We appreciate all of you very much for the financial compensation for my emotional trauma that is happening. Thank you very much.
Adam.
Similar to Dan, I by default I would have to vote for Insurrection. Old Guard's a blind spot still for me, but I'm going to prioritize it. I know Eternals didn't make it into this bracket, but nice. A lot of the themes I like about the Eternals sounds like stuff I'll find interesting about the Old Guard, so I'll definitely check this out. And Gina Prince Blythewood, is that it? Bythewood. So excited to see.
Are you sure it's not by the wood?
Yeah.
by the wood. That's fair.
Yeah. But Insurrection, what I do like about it is, I like it when Star Trek gets weird. I like that it feels like kind of like the Terry Gilliam Star Trek movie in a lot of way, with the stretchy faces and all the weirdness. F. Murray Abraham, he never phones it in. I'll give him that. Anyone who's seen the movie Surviving the Game with Ice-T knows what I'm talking about. But he is, he's something. But I do like all the comedic stuff with Data. And I like seeing, Jonathan Frakes at the helm. He makes, he directed his movies, with a lot of heart and fervor. When I see the Old Guard, maybe it would change my vote, but I'm going to go ahead and vote for Insurrection for whatever it's worth, because I've seen it more than once and I like it okay.
PJ, how much in donations do we need to make this happen?
Speaking of donations, Garth, thank you so much for the $5 donation. Rest in peace, Howard the Duck. He deserved more respect for being the second Marvel Comics theatrical movie after Red Sonja. You think that there will be no consequences, no price to pay, the bill comes due.
Yep.
Mara.
So here's the thing about Star Trek Insurrection. In and of itself, it's not like a flaming dumpster fire. However, I do think a little more poorly of it than you might expect for a person who's a huge Star Trek fan, because it's literally a ripoff of a TNG episode. They literally did this already. They had to get a bunch of people and then sneak them onto a holodeck to make them not know that they were going to take them somewhere else. And there were ethics conversations about it. Like it was already done. And I agree with wholeheartedly everything everybody said about the way they portrayed the same-sex relationship in the Old Guard. And no matter how incredibly moisture-inducing Sir Patrick Stewart is, and it's a lot, it's not enough to overcome the idea that it's a hollow imitation of a previously treaded ground for those characters. And I'm going to go with the Old Guard in this case.
And it's a lot.
So Dan, what would you vote for? Old Guard has made it through, but if you just want to talk
by default, I would have to go with Star Trek Insurrection, which I don't hate as much as other people do. It's a solid two-parter.
I don't hate it as a movie, but you and I both know
it's a solid two-parter of the Next Generation. Yeah.
All right. With that, Old Guard does make it through to the next round. All right. Round 3, guys.
Neither of those movies was gonna make it against anything else, pretty much.
No.
One of them's gonna be in the final. So, maybe we'll see. All right.
Okay.
Next up.
What's next?
Avengers: Infinity War versus Thor: Ragnarok.
We're finally getting to that point.
Yeah, we're getting to that point where stuff's starting to get eliminated, and we got tough with the next 3 matchups. At least are actually pretty tough. Robert,
this one's tough. I think both these movies are really, really great. If I have to go for the one that I'm going to rewatch more, the one that I just have more passion for, it's Infinity War. I think both these movies do a really good job of staying in line with the stakes of where the series is at this point. We're, almost 20 movies in for both of these films, and we don't really need to see like the Incredible Hulk or Iron Man 2 stakes anymore. So I think both these movies do a really good job. I do love Cate Blanchett as Hela, which I didn't really mention before. I think she just absolutely kills it. Whatever the female equivalent of a Zaddy is Cate Blanchett as Hela.
A Maddie.
That's it. A Maddie?
No.
I have a couple friends named Maddie. I don't think that works out. Infinity War, though, I think is just the culmination of everything that the MCU has been building towards. The payoff is there in Endgame, but there's plenty of payoff in Infinity War as well. Some of the best scenes in the entire MCU are, it's not just the snap, it's everything that leads up to it. And it's not just the action scenes either, it's the character moments. It's Steve talking to Thunderbolt Ross on the Skype call or whatever, the hologram call. It's Steve saying we don't trade lives. It's Thor arriving in Wakanda. It's that great Alan Silvestri score blaring. Infinity War is just such a special movie. And it came out at a time where we had to wait. We came out of that movie and the stakes were never higher and we were draws on the floor. Like Infinity War just holds up so well even after Endgame has come out. And I think Ragnarok is wonderful, but Infinity War trumps it, I think, in almost every way.
Adam.
We're making popcorn, so everything's fine. But if you hear that, that's what that is. So I got to, go on a bit of a spiel about Infinity War earlier. Everyone was very gracious. I appreciate it. Thor Ragnarok, I think, is one of the most fun films in the MCU. It really changed things up and reinvigorate a lot of interest in a character that people were kind of sleeping on at the time. And it, the direct lead up to Infinity War sets up the stakes for that film. But like Robert said, Infinity War is singular in what it did and its vision and its stakes. And it's one of the Marvel movies I revisit the most because I am instantly hooked from the opening scene. And one thing I didn't mention earlier that I'll mention now is seeing Thanos just frighten the Hulk into submission told me everything I need to know about that character and then everything he does after that just adds to that. But that alone, without any dialogue, says everything. And I find that moment genuinely unsettling, which is really special for a superhero movie to do.
The best part of that scene is he doesn't use a stone at all. That's just Thanos beating the shit out of Hulk.
Yeah,
that's the best part of that scene.
I know, and he takes his lumps without even really caring. And yeah, Infinity War's great.
Taylor.
Yeah, this is an interesting one because I do think that Infinity War is such an accomplishment. I don't think it'll ever cease to amaze me what Infinity War actually managed to do after all the build up to get to that point. It could have been one of the biggest letdowns to ever happen after so much build up and so many years of people being invested in these characters and this story. And it was just something that they just had to deliver on so many levels with so many different characters and so many different stories. And I do think the ending of the film, the fact that we had to sit with that and there wasn't another movie ready to go just right away. You had to sit with the loss and just the fact that everything wasn't okay in this universe. There's so much to appreciate about Infinity War. Thor Ragnarok, again, is also one of my favorite MCU films. I just really liked the direction of it. The humor worked really well for me. I loved the characters. So this one's tough because it's well, do I like the story that we got to see Taika's take on a superhero film that really worked for me? Or am I going to vote for the one that's just this gut punch and this huge culmination of the entire thing just happening? It's tough because one is a piece essentially of the other one in a way that I don't know. I don't think it's, you know what? No, I know which one that I put on and rewatch more often, so I'm going to vote for Ragnarok, just personally.
All right. Mara?
So I'll admit that this is an interesting matchup, though I don't think that it's necessarily difficult for me. I think that Ragnarok is a lot of fun, but even though I didn't give Infinity War my vote in the last round that it had, I like the idea that it chose to establish its very high stakes. It committed to them, even for people who, it was very obvious that they were coming back. I just appreciate the way that it can be so thoroughly depressing, especially at first viewing, because I love when movies depress us because real life is fairly depressing a lot of the time. Also, only one of these movies features a bearded Chris Evans. So yeah. Infinity War.
Dan.
I like Thor Ragnarok, but I'm voting for Avengers Infinity War. Next.
All right, we're just waiting on Marisol.
I'm here, and mine is going to be a simple. Sorry, excuse me. Mine is going to be a simple one. Musical chairs. Mine is going to be
Your whiskey, madam.
no. Well, hold on.
Okay.
I sip that if something I really, really love gets booted.
Okay. That was premature.
Yeah, I don't think I really have anything to add on what I said earlier. I think it's pretty clear where I lie with both of these. And the impact is there for me. That is what I need, what I'm looking for, what engages me with a film more. To boil it down to the simplest terms, more than comic relief, and like I said, Avengers Infinity War. I won't reiterate my unpopular opinion again. So I'm just gonna vote for Avengers Infinity War.
All right, and with that, Avengers Infinity War makes it through to the final round. All right.
This one's gonna be fun.
Star Wars: The Force Awakens versus Star Trek: The Wrath
I don't want
of
to.
Well, maybe I should
Yeah.
drink this preemptively.
Yeah.
No, wait.
I don't want to. I
Wait,
don't want to.
Marisol, wait.
I think everyone needs to have a drink. real quick.
Everyone is very mad at Jacob
Mine
right
is
now.
empty, so I need to go deal with this really quick.
I'm not. No.
God help us all.
Oh, there's no God. Don't worry about it.
Well, that I you're not going to hear any disagreements over here.
This is why you're my kindred spirit. This is why the organism known as Marisol must happen.
So far, Adam's the only one who hasn't yelled at me. So I'm going to start with Adam.
No, he's yelling at you through
We
here.
all- everybody's like booze.
Hey, Jacob, you're a moldy bag of
Can
butts.
you hear him?
Please, Mar-
Pronounce
Cheers,
it.
Marisol.
Think of how angry you are. Hey, come here.
Salud.
Buddy. Are you mad at Jacob? Yeah? Jacob an asshole?
He didn't say yes.
He just shut his
Woo. Oh Jesus.
Blame Blunden.
Yeah, so are we kicking this off? Is that
Yeah.
Yes,
All right, Adam.
okay?
Keep digging.
All right. I don't want to overthink this. When it comes to Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, it's a fantastic movie. Height of Star Trek as a film franchise. And I'm not looking to besmirch its legacy or undermine anything about it. When it comes to me and my personal relationship to these stories, I personally have a more profound connection to Star Wars: The Force Awakens. I just do, and it has to do with not only my investment in that franchise, but as we discussed at length earlier, The Force Awakens was such a return to form in terms of getting us as Star Wars fans to be excited again about possibilities, to speculate, and have fun speculating. Like we did when we were out at recess, at least for me. Force Awakens reinvigorated that excitement, that curiosity for me. With Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan, I got into Star Trek not late in life, but later as I grew up. I got into Star Trek like late middle school, early high school, more so in college. Whereas Star Wars, I was into as far as I can remember, probably grade school. So Force Awakens just it sinks its claws into me a bit deeper. And that's the X factor here. Otherwise, Wrath of Khan is a damn great movie. I got nothing bad to say about it at all. Just hope people can respect my decision. Star Wars: The Force Awakens is my vote.
So I'm going to just put mine out there so I'll put my cards down so everyone knows.
Okay.
This isn't hard for me, like at all. I am just prepared for my heart to be broken. This is Wrath of Khan because Wrath of Khan is one of the greatest films ever made, and I love Force Awakens. I adore Force Awakens, but what it does is Wrath of Khan did 20 years earlier. Nearly 20 years earlier, but slightly better and has a lot more depth and more meaning and tells a more emotionally compelling story than I think Force Awakens does. So I'm going to go with Wrath of Khan. Anyone want to go next? All right, Dan.
This is not easy because it's like I feel like people lump Star Wars and Star Trek together all the time. because they both have star in the title, but they couldn't be any different. They really couldn't. Star Wars is an opera. Star Trek is a novel. It's like they're different. They're completely different both. But I think I have to. I mean, here, Wrath of Khan is not just a space adventure movie. It's about aging. It's about friendship.
Sorry.
There's so much going on, and like I said, I lavish praise on The Force Awakens, and I still love that movie, but it doesn't go beyond the surface for me. I feel like it's set up to do that, but it doesn't really go beyond the surface that much for me. I think the closest you get is with Kylo Ren and his stuff with his grandfather and Darth Vader and the complicated family legacy, and that's my favorite stuff in the movie. But that's all sort of kicked down the road a little bit for another time, as Maz Kanata would say. And I love the adventure of it. And I love those characters. And again, you're setting up with Rey this sort of pathos, but I feel like with Khan, that explored the characters, and they made the Star Trek characters vulnerable in a way that you don't see in a lot of franchises. You made Kirk operating sort of from a place of weakness and vulnerability and not really knowing what to do with his life. And I think it was such a profound way to take an actual franchise with actors who are entering middle life and to take the character that way. And then to layer on top of that, this story, this revenge story. I love that sequence where they're in the nebula and you have James Horner's score takes over, and it's just so beautifully shot. And then and again you add like this character is questioning where he is, and then he's thrown back out into the cosmos against the past is coming back to haunt him, and then you have this whole thing about death, the strange thing about death. He's never had to face death, and then his best friend dies, but he comes out of it a changed person. I just think there's so much profound about Wrath of Khan. They're two different franchises. They operate on different levels. But I have to say that the levels that Wrath of Khan operates on are more personally affecting to me. So I love both of these movies. I really, really, really do. But I've got to go with Wrath of Khan. Very, very hard decision to make, though.
Parker?
Yeah, man. Dan said some really, really, really true stuff about Wrath of Khan there. As I said, Force Awakens is my favorite Star Wars. It is my favorite Star Wars movie, and Wrath of Khan is probably my favorite Star Trek movie. And yes, I do mean that this movie right here is better than both of them. For me, I would take Narnia over either. That said, Wrath of Khan, man, that movie digs into such great philosophy. The last scene where Kirk says that Spock's soul was the most human that he ever met, and that he feels young, like that whole movie is about him growing old, not just middle age, like that. He's old enough to need reading glasses, and he's allergic to this,
Retinax.
This procedure. Like that movie is about him already being too old to be a captain, and yet he sits in the chair because it's what he was born for. It's what he was meant to be, and that is just like that hits so close to home, and there's such great themes explored in that movie. It is the Star Trek movie, I think, that is the deepest, the one that makes you think the most, the one that is most relatable. That said, Force Awakens, I think, has just some of the most iconic moments and characters and scenes in the entire Star Wars franchise. For me personally, I was working at a movie theater when that movie came out. I was cashing the night that Force Awakens opened, and that was just a moment. And Force Awakens is like incredibly special to me. And Rey pulling the lightsaber out of the snow is a wonderful moment. Mara, I know you're one of the first things we ever talked about was Star Trek versus Star Wars, and you said Star Trek is up here and Star Wars is in here, and I think that's so true. And Force Awakens is so much in here for me that I have to vote for it. I love Wrath of Khan to death, but Star Wars is so much closer to my heart, and Force Awakens especially is just so special for me. Wrath of Khan is such an intelligent movie and horror films at times, and it is so smart, but Force Awakens just makes me feel so much.
Oh, this is gonna hurt me.
Yeah,
This is
it's gonna hurt. It's not gonna be a fun time. It's gonna be bad.
Marisol.
This is the toughest decision of the night for me so far. So props, Jacob. This one is the one. This is.
Don't give him props. Don't give him
I
props.
mean, no. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
come on,
You're a
there's Narnia sitting right
scallywag.
here. Please,
You're a
Marisol, please.
scallywag, and you're likely an arsonist.
Yes. I feel like MIB right now because you are the scum of the universe, Jacob.
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah, this is my toughest of the night. These are two, I think, pretty great films for different reasons. You have to balance. It also, one of the things I like going a little bit later is that I do hear both sides of the debate fleshed out a little further, which just kind of confirm things that I'm thinking. And yeah, Force Awakens does have more superficial sensations to it. And what I said before about Wrath of Khan is that it's such a personal and angry and vengeful, just such a personally motivated film, just driving it forward. There's such a pulse and a fervor to it, and just a juiciness to it that really drives it forward and really engages you with Khan in that film. And it's one of those films. One of my favorite things is when you're watching a movie and you've got the good guys, and for stretches of it, you're torn. You engage so much. Some people may simplify this and call this the villain being stronger than the hero, but I think that is a different way to say when you just write characters so well that you empathize with a villain sometimes more so than the heroes in a story. And I think in Wrath of Khan, why it's such an engaging film for me is because it's one of those films where you are just so invested in the villain, to sometimes more so than the heroes at that point. You're like, well, I get it. Like almost kind of Thanos-esque, where just you are really just engaged in what the villain is, just such a fleshed out character that you're really engaged. And that is a rare thing, I think, especially in a genre like sci-fi. I think that is a rare thing, and really needs to be applauded with Wrath of Khan. And I do think that there's so much goodwill and so much nostalgia tied into what makes Force Awakens so special. But I also do think, I stand by everything I said about it, that it is really just an exciting and energetic and engaging new adventure, albeit on the surface level, like a little fluffier, in terms of adventure than Khan, which is just nastier and twisting the knife more. It's really tough. These are kind of these both scratch different itches. I thought talking that out would help me arrive at a choice, and
your truth.
Well,
Yeah.
Fuck me gently with a chainsaw, because I can't even choose between the two.
There it is.
If you ask me nicely.
a little Heathers for everybody there.
Yes.
Muffin,
what the fuck are you doing?
Star Trek Wrath of Khan.
All right, Taylor.
All right. This one is like just pop culture just coming together, where it's your typical Star Wars versus Star Trek just argument that is just always there, just always comes up. And I think it's interesting that it's these two films specifically. Star Trek, like I said, the new trilogy was my first. Like, I'd seen a couple of episodes of the TV show, like the original series, but I hadn't really dove into Star Trek. Star Wars is like the first, VHS box set that I remember growing up with. It has that just like hits me right here. And so it's really interesting because, now that I've gone back and watched Star Trek, I really do appreciate it for different reasons than I appreciate Star Wars. I think they do something very different, but they achieve what they're trying to do very well in their own respects, which I think is great, because if they were both kind of the same thing, trying to do the same thing, I don't think it would be as special, and we would be kind of robbed of what we have that is very special about both happening at the same time, which is great. As I said before, when we were talking about The Force Awakens, I saw it in theaters so many times. I was so excited to have Star Wars back theatrically, to be getting back into this universe in a new way that a lot of people didn't know if we were ever going to get after the prequels because of how that all went down. It just has such an excitement tied to it for me, like a moment that I just don't think I'll ever forget about how excited I was that was happening. The Wrath of Khan is a better movie. The Wrath of Khan.
Oh my God. I was not expecting that.
I was not expecting that. I was ready. I was like, okay. And here comes The Force Awakens mic drop.
Wow.
It's a better movie. Wow. It doesn't mean as much to me, but it's a better movie.
Mara.
I was fully expecting to kind of have free license to glow about both films for a little while and then make a decision that some people might find unfavorable, but I'm very surprised. I'm still going to do it, though, because I've been exceptionally brief this evening. So
yeah, no,
for a few minutes.
Go for it.
Are you all right over there? I feel like I just shocked you into...
Okay, you had the opportunity to get revenge on me. Like, you had the opportunity to get revenge on this bracket, and you didn't.
By trying to give a knockout punch.
Yeah,
to
by giving the movie that I want to win more than anything outside of maybe two.
See, I'm here for the integrity of the show, and I actually do think Wrath of Khan is a better film.
Jacob, this is how she ends up smothering you with a pillow.
Fun to try and get
she invites you back into the bed,
on you.
smother you with a pillow.
As much fun as it would be to try and make you miserable, I do think Wrath of Khan is better.
Sorry, Mara. Sorry.
No, I don't. I'm fully invested in hearing all of Taylor's reasoning. Okay. I will say this. I didn't exist when Wrath of Khan came out, so I didn't have the opportunity to see it in a theater when it came out, but I did. Force Awakens will be one of the most important movie-going experiences of my entire life. I love how that movie makes me feel. Robbie is right. I generalize because I don't think it's a fight. I don't think that Star Wars and Star Trek have to be like one has to be better than the other. I think they are lovable but very different. I generally feel like Star Wars is a here franchise and Star Trek is a here franchise, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I love both of them. He loves both of them. It seems like everyone else here has affection for at least some of the films in both of them. That's okay. But man, Force Awakens was the Star Wars film that I really, really needed. I actually personally like Clone Wars, but that's because I'm a monster. But I mean, it still wasn't like Star Wars movie. And I have a lot more affection for Phantom Menace than most people have or should have, but that's because I love Duel of the Fates. It makes that whole movie worth it for me, but it just doesn't hold a candle. Like, seeing that in the theater, I was like, oh my God, I loved the end. But I love how well the story's crafted. I like where they took it. I think it is visually breathtaking. The moments, like the blaster bolt being held in the air. Every single time I watch that movie with Dan, I'm like, damn, the thing's about to happen. Oh my God, that's one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my entire life.
It is really cool.
Oh, it's so cool. I mean,
Dark Horse,
sound
Dark
design,
Horse.
the sound design of that moment, it's so cool. Like you can almost like, I feel like it's tangible almost. Like I can feel it because of the sound, vibration, noise, and everything. It's just so good. I like Kylo Ren. I like emo Kylo Ren. I mean,
Put her in the ship.
my family is very complicated. And I can tell you right now, if I had force powers, there was a high likelihood I would be a villain because my family ruined me as a person in a lot of ways. So I can really empathize with that. This movie gave us our first like really major, like gut-wrenching heroic loss feeling in a Star Wars. I mean, I of all everyone fan theorized, of course, but I was like, if they're gonna kill anybody, it's gonna be really old ass Harrison Ford, not the guy who could be any extremely tall person in a Wookiee suit. Because I know everyone was like, it looks like it's Chewbacca's fur, and blah blah blah.
Oh, hashtag Star Wars jacket speculation.
Oh,
I
I
remember
know.
that. Yeah.
Oh my god!
Mm.
But I agree. Like the moment of her getting the lightsaber and that music, like this is some of the best music John Williams ever written, which is fucking saying something because he's my favorite living composer.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, I'm gonna bounce because I can't think very clearly right now. Man, but also music, Wrath of Khan, like James Horner, man, like come on, like eat your heart out, Star Trek. This is the best. Oh, First Contact is also really up there for me, but like basically the best music in Star Trek is in this movie. I love the idea that it's a really slow burn third act climax in the sense that it's an intellectual battle. Like, sure, it's a battle of wills, but he literally outwits him. He out intelligences the hyper intelligent, genetically modified
Khan, I'm laughing at your superior intelligence.
superior intellect.
Sorry.
It's okay. It's fine. I still love you. But one of the things that really I think is a genius move about this movie is that it starts out with the Kobayashi Maru, because we also had not seen a meaningful loss in a Star Trek movie. And I mean, in the show, there were just disposable red shirts everywhere. And so, like, first that fake out, but then to really kill someone in the end and have it be Spock of all people, because of course it would be Spock. I mean, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. What a perfect, very fitting way to do something that much of a straight up, like, I'm going to punch you in the taint kind of a feeling. And man, it totally works because as just right up in the taint.
Artist simulation.
Have you ever been punched in the taint? People in the chat, you tell me, because I imagine it's not great. Luckily, my taint has never been punched. We're getting off topic here. I'm sorry. I'm really jazzed about this round because
I hope it never is.
This is like the toughest one, I think, overall yet.
Very
just
difficult.
in the sense that these are very different. Like
difficult, women difficult.
Even T2 and Two Towers. Those movies kind of have some similar things going on in the action and the feels and the etc.
Yeah.
But I think that these two movies have different iconography for very different reasons. They come from a very different place. The thing that is distinguishing it for me, because I think that they both have exceptional technical merits. They both have fantastic performances. They're perfectly cast films all around. Plus, any movie with a Donald Gleason in it is going to be a great movie because, I mean, he can do no wrong. But the idea that I typify Star Trek as an up here franchise, but this movie is an almost make me cry human being film, which is very tough to do for me because if you put an animal in peril, I will cry no matter what happens, even if I know the animal is fine. But if you hurt a human being, I'm much more contained outwardly with my emotions because it's just culturally inappropriate to like just sit here and like cry in front of people. But even before I was in the Navy and I had to do actual burials at sea, which it just is terrible, beautiful, but terrible. Like even before then though, like that is an almost make Mara sit there and blubber on the sofa like little bitch movie. And because of all of the things that I said, they're both great, fantastic movies. Wrath of Khan just is a fully formed, perfect movie for me. So I'm pleased that other people voted for it. I'm a little I would be disappointed that I didn't have a tie-breaking vote, but I'm not. I'm not at all disappointed.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, I'll stop now.
Well, with that, Force Awakens has been eliminated, and Wrath of Khan makes it into the final 32. There are 6 spots left in the final 32, and we're going to put in 2 more of them.
Woo.
The Incredible Hulk versus Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship.
Sure.
Do we have to? Do we have to?
All right, we've nearly done this for 3 hours, so we can make this one pretty
Taylor,
quick.
cue the Benny Hill
Let's go
music.
for it.
Oh, I was gonna say show of hands.
Yeah. Mara.
I'm gonna chaos vote for the Lord of
Da-
the Rings,
da-
the Fellowship of the
okay.
Ring.
That's
The phrase chaos vote has become a trigger for all of us at this point.
Oh, come on, I had you guys.
no.
All right, I almost started.
Dan.
You almost sharded.
What?
Yeah. I sharted in my heart.
A heart
Robert?
chart.
Yeah.
A heart
Your
shard.
heart charted.
Yeah. Total heart shart.
Fellowship of the Ring. Final answer.
The credits
Robert?
are rolling on Narnia, by the way.
Oh my god.
Okay, you're the one that said it, Jacob. You prophesied.
know.
it.
Yeah.
I know I did. Robert.
Yeah, Fellowship of the Ring. It's
Marisol.
I won't get back on my soapbox, but yeah.
No, tell us about the Incredible
It's
Hulk,
the one.
please.
Ed Norton, though. No.
Yeah, he's a real prick
The
sometimes.
little people with furry feet. Let's do it.
Taylor.
Yeah, sure. Fellowship of the Ring.
Adam.
Thank you so much to hear you say that, Taylor.
Is Willow still in this?
It's next
No.
week.
Ah, fuck.
Willow's still in it, right?
It's still in it, and
Yes.
it's next
Okay,
week.
I just wanted to double check. We haven't talked about Willow in a minute. I miss it.
Oh, shame.
Irrelevant. The Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring. I said everything I needed to say about the Incredible Hulk. All right.
Well,
All right.
with that, to the surprise of no one, Incredible Hulk has made it through. No, I'm kidding. Fellowship of the Ring has made it through and has taken
This is a
one
happy
of the final 32 spots. All right. Last one. Escape from Planet of the Apes versus The Old Guard. I apologize, Dan. You might have to watch one of these movies.
I think I
Well,
will.
He's seen Escape.
I've
so-
seen Escape from Planet of the Apes, but I just haven't seen The Old Guard.
I mean, I can tell you right now. it
All
wouldn't
right,
matter.
I'm gonna go first because
Okay.
it's easy for me. Old guard.
That's fair.
Done.
Okay. I am also going to go with The Old Guard, which I think is a very, very underrated and very enjoyable film. Robert.
Escape from the Planet of the Apes. I think it's more inventive. It brings back the nuance and the cleverness of the original Apes movie. It has something to say about humanity. I think Old Guard is good. It has good action. It is like a fun 2020 comic book movie, but I do think it suffers from some of the saturation of the genre. And Escape from the Planet of the Apes is, even almost 50 years later, is wholly original.
Marisol. Oh,
No, you're good. With these movies that I feel kind of in the middle about, you'll see a lot of flip-flopping with me on who I actually vote for, depending on who they're against. I think that I'm more excited when I think about the Old Guard. I think I'm more excited for what I think the potential of that series buys it so much goodwill for me, more than like actually the film that I saw, which I wanted to be a great film, but I thought was an okay film. But I'm still, even after it finished, because it was like, it set it up for like, well, here's going to be the next movie, or here's going to be the next adventure. It obviously set it up for a sequel, and I'm excited to actually see the sequel a little bit more than I am to revisit Old Guard. And Escape is one of the better sequels. Not going to subject you to my inner monologues here, so I'm just going to say I'm going to go with Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
All right. Mara.
I really like the Old Guard, but I think Escape from the Planet of the Apes deals with some really heavy crap, and it also gave us the gift of Grape Juice Plus. And like I said, a very distressing infant monkey, like an anthropomorphized monkey baby death, and all the other things that went along with it. What an interesting way to take a franchise that was almost kind of like bleeding on the floor, like, oh, the last one wasn't very good. And do something new with it, and then send it in that direction that allowed the sequels to flourish so much more after that. Because even though Escape is not my favorite sequel, Conquest is. We couldn't have gotten that without this movie. And watching it and watching the idea that, you know, initially they're welcomed with open arms and they're almost like a gimmick sort of, and then to be othered and like to threaten to not only forcibly give Zira either like a late term abortion or a partial birth abortion or something really horrific like that, but then to be like,
One of them.
sterilize you for good measure. Like, that's some dark shit. So the dark shit will win this round for me. Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
Adam.
Yeah, again, I have not been able to catch up with the Old Guard since the last round, but I will be seeing it soon.
God bless. God bless.
I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
You're good.
I didn't want to like hot mic with my sneeze. I'm sorry.
No apology necessary.
Please continue.
I much obliged. The Old Guard, I will see, but I am confident that even once I see it, I will maintain that Escape is well deserving of its status as one of the better sequels in Planet of the Apes. And not only is it one of the better sequels, but it did so much with so very little, and like Undiscovered Country took the futuristic franchise and brought it into a present day setting, but didn't entirely play it for laughs. Like had fun with it like Undiscovered Country, but also had a lot to say, like Mara pointed out. So I love that Escape has made it this far. I'd love to see it go another round. So I'm going to vote for that.
All right. And Dan.
Is my vote consequential?
No.
Then I will vote for Escape from the Planet of the Apes.
Okay.
I haven't seen it.
And with that, Escape from the Planet of the Apes makes it into the final 32. And we have 4 spots left next week for the final
2 days
32.
from now?
Oh, yeah, sorry, 2 days from now. Wow.
No,
Yeah,
holy
2
shit,
days
that's on
from now.
Sunday.
Hello.
Yeah. Adrian donated another $5. Thank you so much for the donation. Hi again. I don't know if you saw my comment in the chat. The amazing thing about Kirk and Khan's confrontation in Wrath of Khan is Ricardo and William Shatner were never in the same room. That blows my mind. Thank you.
Yeah.
Not only were they not in the same room, they were shooting on the same set.
Yep.
So the Reliant set and the Enterprise set were the same set. They were just redressed.
I never knew that. Holy shit.
Yeah.
You're welcome, Robbie. That's a gift from him to you.
Look, there are many gifts. I'll shut up now.
All right, I'm gonna give some teasers for Sunday night's show. So in 2 nights, we are going to be doing another show and the final bracket before the final 32. So
it would
here
be
we
our
go.
penultimate show, if you will.
Our penultimate show before we take a week off.
Your penultimate show.
Oh, don't.
All right.
Oh.
What's the Adventures of Tintin: The Secret of the Unicorn?
That's actually what the book's called.
That's
Oh.
it's
That's
it's
what-
the
sorry, okay, that's
subtitle.
the
It's subtitle of
international
first
title.
Yeah, every time I
That's-
see that, it makes me excited that the last unicorn snuck into this
I think
bracket.
international
Oh, I
release. It was
see.
released like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a subtitle.
What an unwieldy title.
Incredibly small printed subtitle.
Ooh, that's tough.
It's not tough.
Mm.
Ooh, that's tough.
That is tough.
Hey, don't.
Ooh, that's
Oh
Okay.
boy!
What the hell is that?
I don't know what that is.
What the hell is that?
That's a fuck you, Jacob.
Okay, all right. I'm ready to go hard on this.
Jacob, why? Why did you put the one thing?
Oh man, I'm angry about that. I don't.
That hurts me personally.
I really do not care for that.
That one's
We'll
rough.
see you
That
in
one-
2 days, guys.
That one's gonna be an
Jacob, you're such a prat.
Okay,
I'm gonna
Return
stay
to
here.
If you want to stay in a
Empire.
house with us in 10 days, don't do this to yourself. You are the one making this happen to yourself. Do you have
I
any
know.
idea? I'm gonna put your hand in a thing of warm water when you go to sleep. You're
You
gonna
do
feel
realize
that
I'm sharing a
Yeah.
bed with her, though.
She's done it to me before.
No, I'll
It's
tell
not
Taylor.
so
I'll wake her up
impressive.
like 3
She's
minutes
gonna
later. And
attach
she's
your-
gonna come. I'll sleep in the middle. Dan will be on one side. Taylor will be on the other side. It'll be very cozy.
She's gonna
and
Mar-
she's gonna
Mar
attach your other
sleeps in
hand to
like
a
an
car
engine.
battery.
tell him.
Look, you'll be taking a nap, and Mara will, I don't know, cut your head off or something.
No, I'll
She's
bring
good at
a
that.
bunch of artisanal chocolates that I hand make, but Jacobs will have a special label on it because they'll have that chocolate X-Lax inside instead of salted caramel.
Like an
What's that
iron
quote? What's that quote from Fight Club where they say it could all? Where Tyler's like, it could always be worse. A woman could cut your dick off and throw it at like a moving car. What is it? What does she say?
No,
Does
that's in
anybody know that quote?
Sopranos season 3.
Oh well, yeah. There you go.
Are you?
Somebody
you
correct me
excited
on that
for the
quote.
trip?
Oh man. Oh, sorry, I failed my COVID test. Nah,
Could've studied harder.
Guys, this was a lot of fun.
Thank you to everyone who hung out, who donated.
Yeah,
to
thank
give
you so
Howard
much.
the Duck a
I feel like it
proper
was
send off.
Mm.
Yo.
My cats are really pissed off and hungry.
Yeah.
Who's a good boy?
This was a lot of fun. Thank you so much, guys. And
Peggy, look, it's been a time. All right,
This
we've had
is
a lot.
Where have you been? Where have you been, Peggy?
Happening. All right.
we will see you in 2 days.
2 days for
2
our, for our
days.
normal bracket day.
Yep.
Our Sunday
See you in
/Monday
45 hours, everybody.
bracket
This is
day.
worth it.
Thank you
Here.
so much, guys. And until then,
We will see you next time.
We'll see you then.
Adios.
Bye.
Bye.